Alright, so this is the Brothers Wisp, number whatever. I can't remember anymore. It's been so long since we've done it. We just lost Andrew Thrift, unfortunately, but he'll probably pop back in. So up on the top left, you got the inimitable Tom Smyth up there from Ireland. He's very Irish. Every cliche, he eats Lucky Charms every day.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Then you've got in the middle there, you got Mike Hammet, crazy guy from up north around Chicago way. Right? Aren't you? You're up there, right?
Yeah. I can see the Sears Tower from some of my network.
Oh, good deal. And then over on the right, you got JJ Boyd, our boy out in North Carolina.
Hello.
Holding it down, man. All of you guys together. It's almost too much sexy for one podcast.
Yeah.
And that's just counting Tom.
Well, what can I say? Actually, I slurred my words there and I haven't had any drink. I've been having tea, just so you know.
Oh, gotcha.
There's nothing in the tea, only tea and milk.
Tea and milk.
Honestly.
What part of Ireland are you? You're in Dublin, right?
Well, I'm living in Dublin, I'm working in Dublin, but I'm from a place called Tipperary, which is in the Midlands. Pretty nice. You should come and visit.
I would love to.
There. That's my plug for Tourism Ireland there. Just sorted there. But actually, I just wanted to ask Mike, does he feel privileged that Obama, was his representative, longer than any of the rest of the guys there? And are you his big fan? Is it true, the rumor?
I'm not sure it's a privilege. It is true, but not it's really a privilege.
Well, apparently Obama's origins, like I used to pass Moneygall, the town in Ireland that his great grandfather was, from. So I actually used to pass it on the way to our farm because we actually live away from our farm. It was kind of one of those things. My dad had two jobs. He was a farmer and a teacher. So he decided that he didn't have to get up at 9 o'clock every morning to go to the farm. So he said he'd live near to the school and then drive every afternoon to the farm. So anyway, we used to pass Obama's heritage every day. So there you go.
For everybody who doesn't know, there's kind of an ongoing joke between Tom and Mike, a little bit of banter back and forth about Mike's, I guess, ultra conservative leanings.
In some aspects, yeah.
But I think we agree on some points, in fairness. And JJ, you're more of a libertarian. Would I be correct in saying that?
Yeah, you would be correct in saying that.
I'd actually lean more towards that side. I kind of be right of Democrat, left of some of the, definitely far left of Tea Party, but more centre. I think I'm kind of the middle.
I think I would have more in common with the Tea Party.
Well, maybe not the crazy part. The more like the fiscally conservative part. Yeah.
Yeah, and the firearms part and the constitutionalist part. So. Well,
the firearms, I have to say, is understandable. We're going to have to edit this.
I thought this was a technology program.
Yeah, everybody knows we're all making this up.
Version and an international version or something and edit out the good parts. The audience on both sides.
But on Obama's roots there, he loves coming to Asheville, North Carolina to eat our barbecue. So the rumor is that he's potentially going to retire here after his second term. So
in
maybe
North Carolina,
some internet. Yeah.
Well, you know what? I would be glad to have him move to North Carolina out of Illinois.
What about Clinton? If he could go for a third term, would you vote for him?
Oh, Bill Clinton? No. Well, Hillary's about to run, so that's Hillary. As good as. Yeah.
No, but would you? Let's say if there was a way he could come back, like Mr. Putin did in Russia. Right. If there was a way he could do a switcheroo.
So if he rode in shirtless on horseback, Putin style.
I thought that was a tiger.
Yeah. Oh no, he actually wrestled the tiger to the ground.
Oh.
Put the collar on him.
Didn't
he walked around the Kremlin.
Didn't he go down in like a submarine or something and discover? Or rescue something not too long ago?
He found a precious antique at the bottom, a treasure, but it was actually put there by one of his entourage about 10 minutes before. It said, "It's down there." Little laser pointer. Dig here.
That's like the worst Easter egg hunt ever.
You're going to find an old bicycle, not worth anything, you know, or an old shoe. But no, so would you like? Did you like Bill Clinton? Did you think he was cool?
I was too young to know the difference, I think, at that point.
Was he cool for a Democrat? Let me ask that question.
Oh, because he slept around and he played the saxophone. I mean, he's like a modern day Ron Burgundy, I guess.
The economy was pretty good, though. He was good on the economy, no?
Yeah, I mean...
well, I guess you could say that.
It's a can of worms, though, because some people will argue that, the preceding presidents had set him up for this, and had everything in place, but who knows? I think things were pretty good.
Well, I have to say, I like being in the States. Kind of cool people, met a lot of people, and, lots of different opinions, but it's pretty cool.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, you're going to be back over here pretty soon anyway, right?
I am. I'm going to talk about something about router security.
On version 7.
Oh.
Oh, shots fired.
To my friends in Mikrotik, this is me. Trying to maintain composure.
Yeah. I mean, you can talk political all you want and bash Tom there. Just don't mention version 7 at this point.
No. Sorry. Code review. I'd say code review, manual code review, best practices. Have a quick look. Try and find the discontinuities, the divide by zeros, the infinite loops, the memory leaks. I've said too much.
Yeah, we'll call that one good. So the mum's coming up in Pittsburgh.
2 months.
Yes.
Yeah. What is that? The end of August, beginning of September.
It's the second week of September, I think.
There you go. Yeah. There you go. So I'm gonna be there. Tom's obviously gonna be there. JJ, you going?
Yes.
All right. How about you, Mike?
I was thinking about it, but I guess if everybody else is going.
I was gonna say, like, you have anything better to do? You know you're gonna be there.
Well, then Justin would be on the way, so I can pick him up.
There you go. And so before we get going, really, I wanted to say one more thing, and that's congratulations to Tom on squeezing out another clone.
Very nice.
Yeah. Well,
congratulations.
Cheers. Thanks. Congratulations. I think to my wife, Asha. It's a bit weird, actually. I keep calling her my girlfriend, and she's going, "Who's that?" And I'm like, "Oh, I meant you."
Yeah.
Wife.
It takes time. It takes time to adjust.
No, I named him Danny Henry, and I named him unilaterally, which meant early on in the pregnancy, which meant I had to spend the rest of the pregnancy begging, because I said to my dad, "Oh, I'm naming him after you," but I hadn't quite discussed it with the wife, so it took a while to kind of get the approval. But finally, while she was in labour, I was kind of holding the pillow. Come on, Danny.
You had that. It was if you want the epidural, then it's going to be Danny. Is that what it's kind of?
But yeah, she did actually ask for it, but the nurse kind of said, "You're about to go, so pretty useless now."
Oh, so they just gave it to you instead?
I actually asked could I inhale the gas. They said, well, they were polite. They just said, F off. But she didn't say it, her face said it.
Gotcha.
Well, story, Justin.
What's up?
So we're just talking about...
fast for this. I might have to go get the other one.
Yeah, we were just talking about Tom's new kiddo.
Thanks very much. He's pretty cool. Danny Henry. Watch this space.
That's cool. That's cool, man. All right, so Justin, you going to the mom coming up here pretty soon? Maybe not. I guess he froze. He disconnected. So anyway, what are we going to talk about on this one, other than the obvious things?
See, we were having some discussion about fiber to the home the other day.
Yeah. So GPON, all that good stuff, and I've done just a little bit of research on it. I haven't actually done any of it. I know you guys are a lot heavier into that, and I was just curious, because you guys were shooting back and forth. Mike has his own opinion about doing point-to-point. He's not kind of a big proponent of the PON idea. So I guess just kind of as a loose overview, GPON is going to be where you gigabit passive optical network, so you can run, what is it, 32 channels, I guess, reasonably, on a single strand, comes back to a special optic, and it does kind of its own little TDM time slices to all the clients, right?
Yeah, that's a pretty good representation of it. And then on top of that, you have other flexibilities too, because the PON portion of the network only consumes, let's say, one channel. So you still have your CWDM channels and your DWDM channels that you could illuminate on that same fiber if you needed to leverage those technologies for capacity. Using ROADMs and or reconfigurable add-drop multiplexers, which basically are just a fancy way of saying that I got a prism at every pop where I can inject and remove wavelengths as I see fit at every location.
Okay. And so Mike's more of a fan of the just kind of the point-to-point methodology, right? So you pull it all back to a single point, you just do Ethernet, right?
Yeah, well, and to kind of say something about JJ's point there about the ROADMs and the whatnot, traditionally residential PONs have just been just the standard PON. You start adding other stuff in, it does become more attractive, because one of the limits of the PON is the bandwidth. When you put 32, 64 homes, they're all sharing that 2.5 gig, which we think, we're sharing 100 meg APs. What's 2.5 gig, and we're never going to see that. But most of the WISPs that I've seen have been rolling their own fiber, have been doing just the point-to-point. Because just because the electronics are so much cheaper. And now, obviously all the big guys, the Verizons or whatnot, they're all doing PON to their hundreds of thousands of homes. But and then obviously if you're leasing fiber, PON is the way to go, because every customer you buy, you got to lease more fiber. It actually gets too expensive.
Right. Well, I mean, GPON obviously uses specialized hardware, right? So you've got a special
OLT.
Yeah, OLT. There you go. And then what the ONT is the head end.
The ONU, or I think the OLT, you got the optical line terminator, which is on the head end of the network, and then you got the ONUs, which are the optical networking units.
There you go. And those guys are generally proprietary. So the TDMA, you can't cross-stream. So you can't go from one vendor's TDMA to some other vendor's, right? So whoever is supplying the head-end equipment also supplies the end-of-the-line equipment, right?
Yeah. And there's some Chinese stuff out there that is extremely affordable. The software would probably leave a lot to be desired. And we're, I'm still exploring all this. I'm just in intensive research mode right now. But to me, the physical aspect of it for doing point-to-point fiber kind of gets cumbersome. Like, let's say you go into a housing development, and now this may just be true of my region, but our housing developments are very linear in nature because it's all up mountain roads and it's all curvy. It's not like a grid where you have like the suburbs and then you just have a huge grid of homes. All of our home developments are some curvy road that snakes up some hill or mountain, so they're all extremely linear in nature. So for around here, it doesn't make a tremendous amount of sense to pull, let's just make it simple and say you had 144 houses and you pull 144 count up the middle of the road, and then so the first house, which may only be 100 yards, you cut into that fiber there, and then that leaves a tail that's however long the community is. So I'm just
fiber, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah. It's whereas like in my area, it's all flat. They'll take a new housing development takes say a square mile, field or whatever, and they just start plowing in roads, and and then there's various obviously different patterns to the developments, but but it's not just 144 all in a row.
Right.
Gotcha.
I mean, there's a lot of challenges in there. So one is going to be, is it a brownfield? Is it a greenfield? Right. Greenfield being mean there's nothing there. So that, I mean, you could just pull next to everybody else's utilities, get your fiber in there really easy. I think probably 99.9% of what everybody's looking at is brownfield. It's something that's already existing. So you've got to worry about boring under streets. You got to worry about crossing sidewalks. All the painful aspects of it. You're gonna have
the railroads. They're a nightmare.
Don't even get me
we
started.
just started researching that, and it's scary.
Every railroad project we've done where we had to bore under took at least 6 months minimum, usually 6 months to a year. So that's just, I mean, because you have to have everything spec'd, you have to adhere to all of their rules, and then once they finally agree to it, you have to pay a flagger, something like $500 a day to stand there and watch you do your work. And it's so painful, and if you do anything wrong, you are in big trouble. But also, whenever you're talking about the different technologies, not only so if you go with a GPON solution, it's proprietary. You're locked into whatever vendor you end up choosing. I mean, you can't switch midstream. I guess you could and just try and shift over, but in those units, they sort of the provisioning is a lot different than we're accustomed to. You don't just grab the end user piece of gear like the CPE that we're accustomed to and configure it and then throw it out in the house. The system kind of auto provisions more like a cable modem plant, I guess. So with the dedicated, hopefully guys you can't hear all that thunder out here, but hopefully like with the dedicated Ethernet solution. So Mike was talking about how some people are maybe throwing out like a Mikrotik 2011. It's got the SFP cage. You're going to have to hand configure each one of those units. I mean, you can do, I guess, kind of some bulk provisioning, but you still have to touch each one of those units, whereas the other ones are more just kind of throw them out there, they provision in the system, and you configure from a unified interface. But then some of those manufacturers do Ethernet PON solutions, right? Where it's a one-to-one. And I'm guessing they still do the auto provision piece, right?
What are you talking about exactly?
Well, I've seen some vendors can do an active system instead of a passive optical network where it's active.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so you throw in SFPs, and I guess you still get the same administrative interface.
Right. Yeah. It's just kind of taking the nice auto back end of the traditional PON system, and then doing just standard Ethernet over it. Usually that can be cross vendor. It's obviously not the same as just putting a 2011 out there, but
it's more like a point-to-point active SFP deployment versus passive.
Right. So it's going to be more expensive, but I guess ultimately if you're doing a huge install and you want it to be as easy as possible, then their provisioning back end is kind of an interesting solution.
Right. And I don't have too much experience with this other than there was a vendor or an ISP here in my region, and I did a little bit of work for him. He redid his entire network with Mikrotik, and he had a PON. I'm using the past tense because he's since went out of business because he was an early adopter, and he built a beautiful bridge to nowhere that he couldn't feed with adequate bandwidth. He could carry a gig, multi gigs across town. But then he had a 20 meg bottleneck with his provider, so he was just way ahead of his time. So
you're picking that network up for cheap, I guess.
No, the county wound up with it. It probably wouldn't hurt to know how to operate it. So
it'd be interesting. I'm sure you're curious just to know how it works, at least.
Yeah, that's a lot of my drive on this is just how does it work? You know, how would I do it if I ever had the opportunity to do it? That's kind of where I'm at with it right now. And I've been working on a project for one of the local municipalities where there may be the possibility of bringing some transport up from a carrier hotel and aggregating that for multiple ISPs in our region. So
gotcha. I think another piece that people don't always think about with PON networks is like multi-tenant dwellings or office buildings. So Mike up there in kind of the Chicago area, a lot of those buildings that just go vertical. I see that as being kind of a good opportunity for rewiring those buildings, as opposed to pulling just tons of copper nowadays. It's from what I understand, it's getting a lot more price competitive to just pull fiber inside, a building, throw some PON equipment in there. I haven't actually talked to anybody doing it, but I've been considering pricing it for a couple of different projects just to see how it stacks up. Have you seen any of that, Mike?
I haven't seen it specific to multi-tenant facilities, but for doing single-family homes, the bulk of the price is in the labor, which is the same whether you're pulling fiber or copper. So then, if you're spending the time, why do you put in something that's 100 years old? Why not just start with fiber?
Yeah, and you know what? Miller and I went to this Gigabit Summit thing a little while back, and he's slapping himself. So this was basically a room full of pimps telling us that we needed their fiber prostitute and why it was so much better than our old copper one, And they had their silk hats on, but seriously, it was very polarizing. So there was a handful of guys like us, like smaller guys representing smaller ISPs, and there weren't many of us. And then there were people that were like giant cities shopping, like gigabit to the home providers, so really the big three like Google, AT&T, and Verizon Fast. But anyway, talking to these guys, one of the questions I think I asked was, so fiber, they keep saying fiber. You have to have fiber. Future-proof it fiber. Fiber is the only way to do it. Fiber, fiber, fiber. So pull single mode, and it'll work from now till forever. And then to that, my question was, we keep seeing all these optimizations in copper. So right now with Cat 5e, we can get gigabit speeds. We really can. So they're saying gigabit is you have to have the fiber, but you don't really need to. And so it started out at 10, went to 100 gig, and now there's the 10 gig Ethernet standard, and they just keep stretching it out. You just keep being able to pull more out of it. So what facilities do you expect to see where Cat 5e carrying a gig isn't going to be acceptable in the future? So even if video stream at like 4K in an average home,
16 megs per second.
So that's what I'm saying. Are you really going to be running 7 TVs at once pulling individualized streams?
Right.
So it's just, I don't know.
Some of the customers that we represent probably.
Yeah. So, but
I think it's more of a buzzword marketing thing than it is a practicality standpoint. The saying a gig versus 100 meg, like, just sounds a little more impressive. And that's what keep bantering, even though nobody needs it.
Yeah, and there was some of the guys talking. It was really just big marketing thing, but they were talking about how they had this. I think it was in Florida. It was some kind of new condo development thing, and their big thing was they pulled fiber into the whole thing, and they're really selling it as this high technology facility and everything. So I guess they're really using it more as a marketing tool as opposed to delivering services. But
we've done that too.
Does that really work though? Does that entice people in? I don't know.
There's this whole mystique of it right now. I'm dealing with this with this political thing that's going on where they don't understand it. It's like black magic, and I truly, how Justin likes to call himself, or Justin Wilson likes to call himself, a network shaman. I really felt like that the other day when when I was trying to explain this, they just looked at me like I was from another planet, and they were doing this.
You know what's funny is like things will make sense in my head and I'll say them out loud, and people look at me like I just crap the bed. So I've started using metaphors a lot. Like I'm constantly using metaphors, and I actually had a guy yell at me. He goes, "I don't want your damn metaphors." When I was explaining something, he was a little upset at the time. Yeah, but I just thought it was hilarious. I guess he thought I was demeaning him by trying to make it so that he could understand it.
I use metaphors constantly. Like it's just how I communicate with anybody, and I always try to explain it like water hoses and fire hydrants, and I mean I spend my
series of tubes.
Yeah.
The best metaphor I've heard this. Oh, sorry. The best metaphor I heard this week was bees with machine guns denial a service attack. Bees
with machine.
I think it's an Amazon app. You can do it for stress testing your website. I just heard about it during the week, and I was kind of, who thinks up this? And then some guy goes, smart people. Okay. So
bees with machine guns.
It wasn't like that.
It wasn't bees. Not nearly so cute.
No.
Yeah.
But but talking about the point-to-point versus the in optical terms, in the UK, a customer of mine they were kind of pioneers in terms that they were a small private operation, doing it in rural broadband. I'm talking about one house every 200 or 300 or 400 meters. So it's kind of or yards. Sorry. So it's much more. For the Americans out there, but it was much more spread out, and it was less dense than, let's say, what Mike would be dealing with in Chicago. And what they actually found was the point-to-point stuff that when they were doing the cost-benefit analysis per port, that they were saying like they could get it at around, maybe, I think they were talking about $50 per port, or $50 per port. When they were taking into account, provisioning for a client. So the infrastructure costs that they were actually accounting for was around $50 per subscriber, which was pretty attractive for one that wouldn't have to be upgraded for quite some time, and also probably could be just replaced by 2 SFPs at either end, and you're jumping up an order of magnitude in bandwidth. And his argument against the GPONs was, he was just saying that because you're contending the capacity, you're actually reducing the value of your installation, with the single fiber. But I do like JJ's point. I wasn't aware that you could actually have multiple channels, so you could have your DWDM as well as your PON as well, which is kind of a nice way of maximizing the use of the single strand.
Yeah. So and
that's where some of the WDM PON guys that have started to reintroduce that system have been targeting their stuff, is to be aggregating multiple PONs, wavelengths, serving multiple neighborhoods all onto one fiber. So then you've got, each set of 32 homes or 64 homes coming together, and then you bunch 16 of those all onto one, strand, and then haul it off.
So normally in a like when you're doing an add drop mux, it comes in, hits the prism, and it'll split out to the different wavelengths, and then you have an active SFP or a colored SFP that will break that out. So it'll send and receive on specific wavelengths, right? So you've got different wavelengths with different ones. So if you're going to do that out in the field, I'm assuming you have to have something active out in that neighborhood, right? A pedestal somewhere that's going from colored to a gray optic, or just a regular Ethernet to shoot out to each one of those.
I didn't look into those particular ones too closely, but something would have to convert, because each of those 16 neighborhoods are going to have the same wavelength per
right.
per subdivision. So then something's going to have to convert.
Yeah, you're going to have something active somewhere out there in the field.
I don't know whether it's active or if they have some sort of passive device that will just change the wavelength.
I know a lot of the ONUs that I've been looking at do have tunable optics, so you can just go in and reprovision the customer up to a different wave, or if you're running active electronics, say a pedestal or something, then you could provision your backhaul over to a different wave, or even over to a different strand. You know, because you get into optical switching or the optical stuff, and it's all kinds of really cool stuff that I wish I could, buy tomorrow.
Yeah, and I've heard some arguments on that. So say you are serving 64 clients off of a PON, and then you have 16 of those, right? So I mean, 64 times 16, that's a lot of customers coming off of one strand. What happens if that gets cut? And in my experience, if you get a cut on a fiber cable, it's not just going to break one strand, it's going to break them all. Usually a backhoe does a pretty darn good job of chewing through backhoe attenuation. Usually it does a pretty good job of going all the way through the fiber. So I think in that instance, the only real
is protected
true answer to that, is another fiber cable taking a different route. So from what I understand, and the experience I've had with it, a lot of people will have kind of a ring around. So if this is your service area right here, you have a ring that goes around the county and sort of tries to touch in different places and come in if you can, which is great about the passive stuff. So, or the optimal muxing, whether you're doing coarse wave or dense wave, it just even though it's one fiber, it can that one color, that one wavelength is virtually a point-to-point back to your head end. So it just gives you a lot more capabilities off a single strand.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing stuff. Kind of stepping back to something Tom said a minute ago, just popped into my head about his crack on the on the imperial system and metric system there. I seen a meme the other day that kind of cracked me up. It had a flag of Neil Armstrong hopping across the moon in front of the American flag that happens to be up there. And it said the metric system. It said, what was it? Metric system. Whose flag's on the moon? So
the only thing I will say is I heard a vicious rumor that NASA actually use the metric system now, and it may have something to do with. Sorry, but that's the boss prompting me and asking me questions. Sorry, and telling me to say this. No, actually, she's not saying that. Sorry. So basically, apparently it wasn't a failed mission to Mars, and it was because the European Space Agency and the Americans were working on the project. And someone was working on the propulsion, someone was working on guidance, and they were using a slide rule or something to do the conversions. And effectively, it kind of, instead of going into orbit around Mars, it went straight into Mars.
Apparently...
Yes.
We here in the States, I think it was 50 years or 100 years ago, we officially adopted the metric system, but there was no law put in place to say that we had to stop using the imperial system. So since nobody forced us to,
if you don't use it.
Yeah, I mean technically it's our official system, but nobody forced us to, so we don't use it. We just.
It's kind of like the IPv6 Nazis who want to shut down IPv4 so everyone moves IPv6.
I'm actually putting that bandwagon. If I could, if we could get some quality NAT64, I think I'm gonna try that strategy at my house.
Is Hotspot working all the way with IPv6 yet?
I don't know. I've not done that. Yeah.
Where's Andrew?
Hotspot scares the crap out of me. All those rules in the firewall and all that magic.
Ah, yeah. Smoke and
that
mirrors.
Makes everything work, even though they shouldn't. You kind of go, put in the wrong IP address, it'll still work, and you're like, what? This is impossible. So
it's all great until the white tiger bites you in the face, right? Is that how that works?
Yeah.
Siegfried and
I
Roy
turned
about
that off on our hotspot deployments. The little NAT pool. Cut that off. Too many problems with that. It would get goofed up, and you'd see the hosts and the IP hotspot hosts, the two addresses we get out of sync, and then one of the twos would get doubled up, and then nothing would work. It was just bad.
Yeah, we saw turn off the IP pools. Really fix that. Man, I've got like emergency warning going on over here. What's that? We've got some We got some crazy weather over here. It's probably like a tornado. Flash flood warning. That's okay.
That's better than a tornado.
Yeah, yeah. I'm cool.
Oh, every time it rains in Texas, it's a flash flood.
Sort of. we're ill prepared for it. I know every time it rains here, it must be like the way it snows up there. People just lose their minds. Just completely forget how to drive, everything like that. Drop of water. So anyway, the GPON stuff. Do you guys have any plans of actually attempting it in the near future? I know JJ, you said you were researching, but that's probably for some crazy side project. But are you guys actually?
We're gonna try it in a greenfield apartment complex probably here soon. Gonna be try to be the first gigabit provider in an apartment complex in Richmond.
That's cool.
That's Scott's anyways. I'm like, whatever.
You're like, I'll make it work.
So are you guys doing a GPON thing?
Probably.
Have you settled on a vendor yet?
I mean, this is all just pie in the sky right now.
Gotcha.
He wants to do it, but hasn't decided which project to do it on. And there's like several in the process right now that are too far along to go and retrofit it. So.
Okay. So while we're talking about GPON, the other big part of that is people want to do TV delivery over the medium, right? So it's one pipe to feed everything, which is basically like taking your steak, your potatoes, you put in your apple pie, and then you put in your tea, and then you put it in the blender, shake it up, and drink it all at once, right? It's delicious. Everybody loves it like that. But the TV delivery piece for anything but the bigs has been all but impossible lately. Have you guys? I've been doing a ton of research. Have you guys been actually looking at trying to do any IPTV
My
stuff?
personal attitude is on it that the older generations are the only ones that care about that, and I don't know. I just think that the cost of internet is going to kind of rise and meet that triple play price in the next 15 years.
All right. So I used to think that. So before I started doing all this research, coming into it, this is what I thought. Right. I watch Netflix a lot. I watch occasionally Hulu, or I'll stream something online. And I don't even watch TV anymore. Honestly, I don't. So why do I need it? And I bet everybody's going to move to that. Well, then started talking to a lot of the content delivery companies and the mediums and methods that you actually get content rights, and that's not the case. So if you think about it, this is kind of where net neutrality ties all into it. Who actually owns the content that everybody wants, right? So Comcast now owns, NBC and a bunch of affiliates, and then so a lot of the ISPs and cable companies are actually the ones that own the content production companies. So that means they've got a stranglehold on it. There's not a whole lot of independent stuff. So Netflix has started doing their own independent stuff with like Orange is the New Black, and there's that Kevin Spacey show that Tom likes so much. What is that? What is it? There you go, House of Cards. That's right. So there's a little bit of content being delivered, but you know what? 99% of what people want to watch is on these networks that are owned by these giant ISPs.
Amazon has stuff too now too.
Right? And so yeah, and you know what? A lot of that content's good, but it's just a trickle. I mean, it's just a tiny little bit compared to everything else. And I think, given time, there'll be a switch and a change, but they have it locked down. Another piece is what's keeping cable companies alive are sports networks, right? Sports channels. You can't stream ESPN on the internet, unless you have like a cable provider that allows you to do that or something like that. And from what somebody told me in the organization, they said, Comcast pays us $1.5 billion a year. When you can come to me and offer me anywhere near that kind of money, I'll talk to you about allowing you to stream that content. Right? That's what it comes down to. They have the stranglehold on the industry. So there are a few organizations put together, like NCTC. That it's like a co-op of cable providers, and you can negotiate content rights, but it ends up the content rights are honestly astronomical when you look at it. So there's all these different ways you can buy all this head-in equipment that will pull in the feeds, mux it up, spit it out. You get the set-top boxes for like $100. It's great. You have this thing called middleware, which is like your guide channel for people to figure out which stuff they want to watch, and all that stuff is really great. And you can get a finite price schedule and all that stuff, but then you look at content rights, and so you factor in how much I have to pay for the equipment, content rights, put those together, and I can't compete with anybody anymore. I can't compete with the local cable providers. I can't compete with satellite TV. So if I want to actually do IPTV delivery, there's one company I found who kind of does all the work for you and hands you a feed, and they're called Skitter. And they've been doing a lot of stuff here in Texas lately. But the footprint to jump in there is, and I've got an NDA, so I can't really like say a number, but it's more than $100,000, right, to get in the door. And I think that's pretty much commonly available knowledge, right? So it's fairly hefty. So if you've got a subscriber base of, I don't know, several thousand people, right, then it probably makes sense for you to jump in like that. But if you've got 400 subscribers, you know, say 400 to 900, somewhere in there, which is honestly where the majority of WISPs seem to sit, somewhere in that neighborhood. It's just priced where you can't even compete. And it's all comes back to that licensing crap.
And WISPA get a license and have everyone at WISPA just...
That would be brilliant. But you know what? So like Skitter, if you sign with them, get a license, you can deliver to this community, and you go to a new community, you don't have to pay another license, right? You can still deliver it over there, which is great. But that entry price, due to all of these content rights, just locks you out, right? And who owns all those content rights ultimately? It's the other big ISPs. And so when you really look at it like that, it's them pretty much acting as a monopoly, squeezing out everybody else, killing the competition. So,
well, I'm glad you mentioned that word competition, because what the feck were the FCC doing with the net neutrality ruling? Like, isn't that the most anti-competitive decision ever made, which was, you know, about net neutrality and, you know, basically saying to Comcast, yeah, you can lock Netflix out. So people on certain cable networks are not free to view content provided through a private contract with another provider on the internet, because the intermediary has decided to effectively censor the content that the person can view. It's very anti-American, very anti-competitive, very anti-free trade. What do you think yourselves?
Well, I mean, I think, who's it, JJ? Or no, Tom, you actually said it perfectly earlier. It's all black magic inside, right? All the way the internet works, nobody has a clue. You know, they don't have a clue how any of this infrastructure gets to them. And so that ignorance is where this stuff is allowed to flourish. You know what I mean?
I mean, absolutely all the time. We have customers contact us that I literally think that they believe that the dish out in their yard or on their house pulls internet from the Flodic network, and it doesn't actually travel through, you know, the physical world that we all live in. It just, because it's just, okay, well, why is it broken? Well, lightning hit the tower. Why aren't you fixing it? Because lightning's still hitting the tower.
Yeah, no, I accept that there's a cost associated with the delivery. However, if you have two providers who have invested similarly in infrastructure, and you just throw a cable across, you know, it's a patch lead, then why don't they play ball? Like, in the interest of free, the free is in, not free as in dollars, but freedom as in the, if you're subscribers, who has the right to steer customers away from one content provider over another? I think from a business perspective, you the ISP, the Edge ISP, have a duty of care to make sure that there's free-flowing bandwidth between their customer and a provider of data. And like it or not, those guys are paid to do that fucking job. Excuse the language. Yeah. So and so if there is a cost associated with that, then charge it. But you can't be kind of creating a little tax on what's flowing. I thought that was a bad word in, you know, your part of the world, and but also monopolies and cutting competition out is about, you know, I just think that you know, the internet has grown where it flourished because of, you know, I suppose that disorganized, free, independent companies collaborating as opposed to competing.
All right. Well, I mean, think about it like this too. Who loses in this? It's a handful of content providers like your Netflix. I mean, this is what people immediately see, I think, in my mind, is Netflix and Hulu. And they are these huge billion-dollar corporations. They're getting taxed. So the little guy's like, yeah, screw those hippies, you know. Let them get taxed. I don't care. When ultimately they don't see that it affects them negatively.
Right. And like even right now with the current conditions, the way that it is for myself is a business owner here in the United States, it is incredibly tough to get your foot through the door and get to the point where you can purchase bandwidth from or in quantity enough to get it at decent prices. It's like, okay, well, I want to do a gigabit to everybody's house. Okay, well, in order to do that, you got to have, you know, way more, you know, you got to have more than a gig.
Yeah.
So, and then you say, okay, well, I'm going to sell it to the customer for, I don't know, what will the market bear? And then so you figure that out, and then you go to your providers and they give you a number, and then you go cry.
Yeah, I know right now in our world, fiber to the home absolutely works in every city if day one I have 5,000 subscribers. If I have them already, then I can go and I can buy that bandwidth cheap, you know, and I can do all the quality service. I can make it work and it'll be beautiful and it'll be perfect, but it doesn't work like that. And to put all that freaking infrastructure in the ground, to dump all this fiber and to work through all the political bullshit that's associated with it is a nightmare.
Yes.
Just to know that maybe year one I would have a couple hundred subscribers or better, it just doesn't work. It doesn't financially work, and it's so frustrating. Because if you could get one piece of it to work, until you get to a certain volume, the whole thing doesn't. It's not sustainable. It's crazy. It's like cold fusion, I guess.
Right.
You just put a lot in at first, yeah. Apparently, that's the hand anyway. But like, no, but if you gotta, like, if you have like OpenI, like, what do you think of the OpenIX movement in the US? Is that improving things for, like, to allow providers to peer share bandwidth, reduce transit costs? Like, I believe that was in response to restrictive internet exchanges before. Like, how do you feel about that? Or like, that's what I'm trying to say, is that if you've got two providers that are similarly sized, and one is trying to provide content in that the other provider's subscriber base wants, I just don't see how ISP should be facilitating the flow of information rather than stifling.
I think that there's kind of a twofold on that. One is, it would be great if here in the States we had like a non-profit organization that would go regionally and, you know, just put a footprint in all those data centers and bam, you know, have the internet exchange there, have it ready to go. But two is, brother, we are spread out here in the States. We are so far apart. So if I'm in Texas especially, and my nearest, say, co-location point, meet me point, is going to be in Dallas, and it honestly is. If anybody in Texas wants to hit an exchange, you got to go to Dallas. So if I'm 150, 200, 300 miles away, the transit from point A to point B is going to be so expensive. You know?
Yeah, that's the same battle that we have trying to get to either of the telex facilities, either in Charlotte, North Carolina, or Atlanta, Georgia.
So I think if there was a nonprofit in place in those locations, then I think a lot more people could stomach paying that transit cost to get there. But the fact that they have to pay the transit, they have to buy co-location space, they have to pay, and each cross connect on average in these data centers is going to be over $300 a month on each cross connect.
And lots of times you might have to pay it on both ends.
Yep.
Like, so your provider's paying it, that you're paying for transit, and then you got to turn around and pay it. So that's $600 a month.
So
just for cross.
A lot of these joints, just to get equipment in the facility, you're paying $1,000 a month. And then you're going to pay to go over to Netflix. You're going to pay, I don't know, $350 a month to go to Google's network, another $300. You want to go to another provider, probably a third, at least to start with. So you're looking at $2,000 a month minimum is what you're going to have to pay just for peering. If you want to pull bandwidth out of there, it's another cross connect plus the bandwidth fee. And then you're going to have to pay a fairly sizable fee just to backhaul that mess. And so a lot of us, if you're going to hit a meet me point or a pop, you still got, so say I get a level 3 circuit and I hit the local pop, I've still got to transport that 60 miles, 100 miles. How am I going to get it there, you know, once it hits that pop? So there's just so many hurdles here that you got to, and that's where, like the AirFibers, I think, are really starting to come in. We're starting to see some more people dump like AirFibers in those meet me points, you know, whether it's the original AirFibers, the AirFiber 5s, to get that higher bandwidth, you know, to dump it back. There's still, and here in the WISPs, at least in my area, I've seen there's not a lot of cooperation. So, you know, if I'm successfully, if I'm successfully pulling bandwidth, even if I can make a good margin and profit selling to somebody else, I don't want to help the WISP that's next door to me. So
I think it depends. Like, I think in Ireland, a lot of the providers will cooperate if they're kind of a safe distance away. Now, in fairness, we actually get on well with our neighbours, thankfully, but I've heard of other lads just wouldn't talk to each other. You know, they'd be in the same room and they just, you know, almost ignore each other on purpose. You know, like almost like state, I'm ignoring you, and you know. But like, no, I'd agree. Like, we've, by the way, we have similar costs, but like I'd find for me, like when I joined the local internet exchange, that was a big step for our company, and it improved our user experience. So as me as an ISP, with all those costs of being an ISP, that by peering more openly, I was actually improving my subscriber base's usage of the internet and their user experience. And I felt that that was, in a way, a duty of care that I had, a responsibility, bearing in mind the costs. So I have, then my job is to make those costs work, square the circle, if you would. But like, I think it's possible to do it.
Yeah, and again, I think that would be tremendous. I think that would be a boon for us.
It's a very tough struggle to get up to the volume of bandwidth, and like what you're saying, like my first bandwidth that I bought was 1 meg, all of 1 meg. I think I contended the living daylights out of that until I said, okay, I need to go to 2 megs. It's 5 and then 10 and 30, and like now we've got, you know, a gig with Cogent, we've got a gig on INX LAN 1, and we've dropped down to 100 megs on INX LAN 2 because basically it just wasn't getting enough bandwidth. And basically you've got 2 LANs, but most of the lads join the first LAN and they don't go to the second LAN because of the extra cost. So I actually, you know, I kind of went, oh, I'll go on to second LAN, but you know, there's like only about 20% of our bandwidth. Even by trying to steer all the traffic through to LAN 2, it still only comes up around 20% of LAN 1, like. But no, like, but like it was a very hard slog. Like, I mean, I'm what, 8, 9 years in business now, 8 years in business, and it's only like last year that we got all that kind of nice stuff and got into a proper colo, and you know. But we have a lot more, I think, carrier neutral. Are a lot of the data, what's the data center landscape like? Like, are all the years carrier neutral, or are carrier neutral really popular, or is it just the big guys controlling all the data centers?
Most of ours that I've dealt with are fairly carrier neutral. Carrier neutral is kind of it's misleading.
Carrier neutral as long as you have as much money as a large carrier.
Well, carrier neutral in that if you pull bandwidth from them, they may give you a break on the cross connect fee, but man, they're really going to spank you when you go to anybody else.
Yeah, it's like the most the largest exchange is going to be Equinix, and they don't sell their own internet service, but they sell cross connects and this and that and all these other things, and everything is so expensive because they don't sell internet. So they have to make just as much money as the guys that sell internet without selling the internet.
Yeah, so it's basically they get.
They're real estate brokers. I mean,
yeah.
It's like storage. It's like storage wars.
Yeah, they get their taste, but they don't have to do any of the heavy lifting. So they don't have to worry about maintaining the routers and the infrastructure and the personnel. So it's kind of
just have to keep the building from burning down.
Yeah.
So, we have an AirFiber link that we think we're experiencing some interference on. JJ, do you know of any way of telling on an AirFiber?
I'm assuming it's a 24.
Yeah.
I don't know about up there where you're at, but down here we've had Duke University and NASA doing a weather experiment at 24 gigs, and so the 24 gig unlicensed band. So we had experienced some of that.
What did you see?
It would just go sporadic. Whenever they were blasting away at the sky, it would modulation rates would drop down to virtually nothing, and then they just randomly come back.
How'd you figure out what it was?
Because they were on the same mountain as us, and they kept moving their antenna around. Like they just. So I went down and asked, the guy that takes care of the building. So why do they keep turning that antenna around? He's like, oh, they're getting interference. I was like, so am I. So I started looking at the equipment, and sure enough, right there on it said 24.1. And so I contacted them and talked to them. They're like, yeah, we get all this crazy interference all the time. So we've been going up there and moving it over a couple inches, trying to figure out what it was. It's like, well, it's me. So and you're causing interference on me, so stop it.
So you figured out every time you unplugged it, it quit breaking.
Yeah. So I ultimately tightened the channels up and kind of wiggled out of the way because I didn't need uber speed.
So you wouldn't have duplex on 24.2 probably.
Yeah.
No.
I can't wait for somebody to listen to this on, just on a podcast, just the audio version of Justin's this and this and this. Yeah.
This and this and this.
Yeah,
Sam gets so mad at me because I say this and that and over there so much. He's like, I have no idea what you're even talking about.
Those AirFiber 24s, they don't generate the signal at a lower frequency and upband it, do they? Or is it just natively
zero IF? So.
Because I know
So in other words, it doesn't have intermediate frequency, so that's kind of their claim to fame.
Okay, because doesn't like the Ubiquiti like 5 gigahertz stuff? Don't they generate at 2.4 and upband it to 5 or something like that?
I'm not sure. I've not got to take one apart, so I don't know.
The 365 and the 900 are just up or down. Well, obviously the 900 is down, but the 365 is either up converted 2.4 or down converted 5.
Yeah, they're putting transverters on the cheap silicon so that they can get it to a different frequency.
Yeah, but
so I think on the AirFiber, since it's custom, from the ground up, they built it specifically at 5.
You still have that AirFiber 5 running?
Yes.
How's that working out for you?
It's pretty awesome.
So we got
what sort of range do you get with them?
That we're about to put up.
Very nice. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. It's been up. It's just rock solid. The link, the way I have it configured, is 20 by 10 megahertz, and I've got 200 coming up to the tower and 100 megs going back down. And this particular link, I usually have about 100, 110 megs on it during peak hours, and it's just awesome. I'm very happy with it. And this is a 12-mile link, and at 20 megahertz, I am seeing 8x, the 256 QAM. So
we've.
Without seeing a diagram, I'm gonna pull a Greg on this one.
Show me a picture.
Picture.
Unless you're
draw the whole network out like this.
Unless your paths are like totally balanced, we found it difficult. But the CSPF, OSPF with MPLS has been traffic engineering has been pretty nice. And what you can do is statically define the path, so you can take a slightly longer one around, and that. So what we do is, it kind of gets complicated though, because if you have, let's say, if you had 2 redundant hops ahead of you, you need 4 paths. If you've got 3, you need 8 paths. To work out all the, if you wanted to statically define all your paths. So what we normally do is pick 2 primary paths, and then the third path we just say, yeah, do your OSPF thing. But it's pretty tedious because you have to specify each IP address of each interface on each router. So if you've got you'll have 2 hops, you'll have 2 IPs per hop. So it can your list can get very long. But it actually is working pretty well, to be fair to
Mm-hmm.
Mikrotik. We were using CSPF, or we had turned on MPLS through OSPF for ages on our network, and we just weren't using it. So then I said, okay, let's get this traffic engineering working. But you know, I suppose the issues I kind of ran into with that was, you know, you can have one of the routers misconfigured, or if you misconfigure the tunnel and begin with, and then you make the changes, it mightn't come up. Then you delete the tunnel, put it in right, and then it works. You know, so but it's been very stable since it came up. And I just got like I think for Justin, for what you're trying to do, where you're trying to load balance and links, you can be very granular about it. So if sites are pretty close to your backhaul, you can let them kind of go a slightly longer route. And then the guys who are on the outlying part of your network, you can push them through the most direct.
Well, I can say what I've done so far with the AirFiber link is this. I put this AirFiber in on an exact path that I already had some, like a pair of rockets and a couple of 2-foot dishes. And so on this particular path, I left the rockets just in case lightning or the AirFiber was a piece of junk. You know, before I knew, you know, I just bought it on a hope that it was actually going to work out of the box, and it did. I mean, I ordered it straight from Ubiquiti when they first started selling them on their website. You know, they airshipped some in. It said Air China all over the box, and or the boxes. I mean, it was like the boxes were, you know, apartment refrigerator size boxes. But I'm just using manipulating OSPF costs, because at this point, you know, MPLS for my network, I've tinkered around with it, but I've not found a valid use for it at this point in our I guess we've just not reached that level of maturity yet.
I think a lot of times too, it's, you know, keep it simple. The fewer things you have running, the less there is to go wrong. Fewer bugs you're gonna pop into. Oh, Tom,
my
your
colleagues
face.
are going to love you guys, and they're going to say, "See, Tom, I told you so."
But no. We're not all.
Edit the Irish version.
We're not all as advanced in our network knowledge and all that stuff as Tom is. So.
Which go away, Greg. I actually, in fairness, I remember doing a training, my first INE course, and I was going, oh Jesus, I have to teach this tomorrow, and I ended up looking at Greg's blog. So, thank you, Greg.
I'm definitely sure Greg's taught us all a little bit of something.
Yeah.
So
I was trying to convert a Cisco 7975 Cisco phone to SIP. And I was Googling, and here comes Greg's blog. Here's how to do it. Here's how to do the provisioning.
You know, I just put that stuff up so that I could remember how to do it myself. So
yeah,
it's basically just my Cliff's Notes, that's all.
You know, lots of times I will be just Googling something random, and it'll be, you know, here's Greg or here's Andrew. So I just need to go search their websites first, and then
ask Google.
There you go. No, man, you just keep doing that, and then clicking on me. That way, it like bumps me up. Just keeps me up there at the top. Keeps my ego boosted up. That's the only reason I do it.
The one thing I'll say about traffic engineering, because I tried LTP based MPLS, and I would advise you to steer clear of that. It doesn't work that well. I learned that the hard way, because, you know, Mikrotik supported GAONs, and they said, yeah, just use the OSPF based one. But one thing that's nice about it, compared to, let's say, OSPF, where you have your costs on each link. So if one link is, you know, one metric slightly longer, then you won't get your balance, you know, that kind of way. So it can be very hard to just manipulate the traffic so you're balancing equally. And then you have the problem, which we have with any, I suppose, Mikrotik link, where one link might perform at, you know, 220 megs, and then a similarly configured link might only perform at 140 megs. So you do your bandwidth testing, say I've got 220 on that, happy days. Like one of the things that we found was the 800s with the newer PCI Express interfaces were pretty, rather than the old R52HNs. We saw a bump in performance, and actually just something I was trying out the last time I was talking to you, I think, or we were saying about the 30 meg channels. What we've noticed is there's a lot more noise sensitivity like your smoke ping graphs can go up quite considerably. And then when we actually brought them back down to 20 meg channels, the actual noise, the actual jitter went away. So it's just something that I don't know if you.
I noticed that as well, and then they came out with that wireless FP, the new driver, and I started kicking that on all my Mikrotik links, and that is amazing. Like, I don't know what they did. Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah, the new wireless driver running MV2, they've just about got it right. So,
except for the fact that it's not DFS certified, so you can't actually use it.
What are you talking about?
Of course. JJ's talking about it in the lab that he was testing it.
5.8 would be fine. But Metro Chicago, got to use 5.4. And then again, be Metro Chicago, the whole TWR radars and whatnot, I can't run something not certified because they'll see it $10,000, $20,000. So
just put your competitor's name on the box.
Just stay away from 5650 and 5600. There you go.
Yeah.
Those guys in Puerto Rico can't seem to figure that out. Every 6 months, someone down there gets fined.
Yeah, I've been watching that too. All that stuff comes out in the amateur radio books too. All the FCC fines get published.
Where's that?
Down in San Juan. Every 6 to 9 months, some new WISP, because Gino said there's dozens of them in the same town, and they all just buy stuff on the internet, put it up, and then if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And so they just put it at 5180 and 5650, and because those are free channels, so why not use them? And the FCC comes by and says $28,000, please. Then they decide maybe they shouldn't do that anymore.
Can I ask a question? Because I haven't touched the AirFibes yet. But what's, let's say, the maximum speed you get, let's say, with just 20 meg channel space? What would you get, with the 256 QAM? What sort of bandwidth would you get, and what sort of range at that?
Channels.
Well, go ahead, Justin.
It's one channel or two channels, right? It's either half or full duplex. So if you only have 20 megahertz channel, that's one channel.
Could you do 10 megahertz and 10 megahertz?
Yes, the new the new firmware does let you split the transmit and the receive if you're running full duplex. So the
can you do one up here, one down here, one in 50, whatever? Can you have a gap in between them?
Yes, you can have a gap, and I found in my testing that you need about at least 50 to 75 megahertz between your transmit and receive if you're running them in full duplex mode. If you get them closer than that, then you start seeing degradation on the symbol rate. And then if you're running in the United States, if you're running DFS radios, you will see that you can't run the full transmit power on the Uni 1, the not Uni 1, what I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. Uni 2. So 5400 megs down in that neighborhood, you're limited to a crippled ERP. So if you're looking at long links on these DFS compliant radios, then you have to stay up in 5.7 in the US, which can be, that band may already be contested where you're at. So it can be tough, but we did find a solution that worked using 30 total for full duplex. So the direct question, or the direct answer, excuse me about the call, I guess the most direct answer that I could give you is, depending on the distance of the link, let's say it's just 12 miles, like the one that I have. At 20 megahertz, I can run 256 QAM. I don't know how much further beyond 12 miles I'd be able to maintain the 8x modulation rate, which is the 256 QAM. I don't think it would be very far, personally. I think that maybe another 3 miles, 15 miles, and you're probably going to be pushing it on a 20 meg channel. But 200 megabits and a 20 megahertz channel is what you're going to get.
You also have to remember JJ's up in the mountains too, so his shots I mean, they really are free space. You don't have to worry about obstructions and stuff, right?
Right. Yeah, there's nothing. It's just it's wide open. No Fresnel issues, no nothing. I mean, it's basically as picture perfect for long distance as you can get. I mean, we even mounted the one on the roof of the data center closer to the edge just to get away. We did notice they're hypersensitive to reflections. So if you're like in the middle of a roof versus the edge of a roof, you will see degradation on your symbol rate. Where we noticed when we pushed it to the edge of the roof versus where we had it originally in the center, we were getting weird modulation dropouts. And then we just moved the antenna 20 feet to the edge of the roof, and the problems went away. The building was maybe 30 foot tall. And then the tower, of course, is, you know, we're only about 30 foot up the tower, and but the tower's at 6,000 feet, so it doesn't, and it's just a beautiful view. Yeah, that's exactly what the path looks like. It's just straight up like that. It's a very easy path.
That also kind of breaks my brain that you can, one direction you can go 10 megahertz, and the reverse direction you can do 20 megahertz, right?
Yeah. So, and the configuration can be extremely complex on the AF5s, because not only do you can go 10 megahertz or 20 megahertz or soon to be 30 or 40 or 50. So you play with all these different widths, and for me, 40 drops me down. I get more throughput, but I get dropped down into 6x at 12 miles. So that means I'm down at QAM 64, so my throughput is cut in half. So I'm only getting like 304 or 302 megabits at 40, where if I were a little bit closer at 40 megahertz, I would get more. So their, you know, gigabit advertising, you know, it'd be 500 megahertz or 500 megabits in both directions. If you were, say, I don't know, I think anything over about 6 miles, you're never ever going to see a gigabit on AirFiber 5s. But I don't have a short link like that, and that would be running two 50 megahertz channels. So in essence, the entire band, or the entire upper band.
6 miles, that's pretty good. So if you're going to do fiber to the home in a metro area, you could just AirFiber 5 it out to your community and then pawn it.
Well, when you get into metro, you're gonna your frequency at 5 gigs is already going to be contested. So it's kind of like this double-edged sword of, yes, it's awesome, but it's I seen some people on the forum calling it an air hog. So the air hog 5. So I kind of got a chuckle out of that. But for my application, it's perfect. You know, there's nothing else that I've used that I'm getting a true 200 megabits on that 12-mile hop. And
check out that screenshot I just sent to you guys.
It says it may contain viruses. Are you sending me a virus?
From my Mac, yeah.
gosh,
Tom got him first.
it's not working.
I'm not going to pull it up.
We recently deployed.
It's a scan that I did on 5 gig. 80 stations found.
Wow.
80 EVs.
Ouch. But largely, it's working beautiful for us. I'm very happy with the product, but I don't think that it's not a magic bullet that cures every long distance links throughput issues, because if you already have a lot of APs on a tower, I had to do some serious frequency juggling and scooch things away from the frequencies that I was using here, and this thing, the AirFibers will absolutely crush AirMax and Mikrotik APs. They'll just drop all their clients and say, I don't hear anybody, if you're not very careful. So
we had when we were doing the experiments with the custom frequencies, we ended up doing an Excel spreadsheet. So I broke up the 5 gigahertz spectrum into 5 megahertz blocks, and then had to map it out. Like, it took me ages, but it was a worthwhile exercise, because you ended up kind of being more efficient, where you were trying to give loads of space between sectors. You kind of said, well, they don't have to be that far apart. We can kind of squeeze them a bit closer together, and we can fit in 40 megs or 50 megs or 60 megs of contiguous channel space, and hopefully we can hold it. But we recently deployed it, like, you know, with the Juris dishes, the 800s with the R52HNs, and we were getting around 220 meg with the FP package, which I was amazed at, on a 2040. So it was a 40 meg channel, dual chain. So obviously it was probably not comparing like with like, considering you were just doing a 20 meg channel with, well, you know, with the whatever technology the AirFibers have.
Yeah. The AirFiber is also running a 23 dB dish, because since it is a turnkey, pull it out of the box, turn it on solution, the only truly legal size of antenna they could run with the emitter powers they have for the 23 dB. So in my mind, it would have made more sense if they had made a couple of antennas and then made a transmitter module that you then assembled as the consumer. And I've actually joked around with Sam about, why don't we make some 3-foot dishes with some waveguide fees, and you just order one and unbolt the radio and bolt it onto the antennas. So
He hasn't.
But you would never actually do that, right? Of course not.
only in the upper band.
Right. You tested in your lab, and that would be it, right?
Well, no, at 5.7, you can do whatever, you know, you got unlimited antenna gain thanks to WISPA still, you know?
Very cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
How did you get that across the line?
Right? So you guys are, well, we only have a small chunk where we can, run unlimited gain.
It's over a 125 megahertz section. In a point-to-point mode, you can run. I think the baseline is a 30 dB transmitter into a 6 dB antenna, but then there is no antenna gain restrictions. So you can slap it onto a 12-foot dish.
Right, and that's where you say, well, I thought the waveguide had like 40 decibels of loss.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, it makes sense though, because as you increase the gain of the antenna, it's decreasing the beam width, so there's a smaller and smaller section that you could possibly interfere with.
Right. So
exactly, and larger antennas actually cause less interference abroad. But the problem is I heard some tower hands the other day making fun of small dish guys, saying that they had no place on towers and this, that, and the other, and I guess because they're afraid, because they bring out cranes and hang 12-foot dishes all over these towers, and then I'm up here with my my Tonka truck and my and my Tinker toys.
They're just compensating for something.
There you go. They're insane. They zip line out of the top of these towers like it's something else to watch these crews work. So there's all kinds of new stuff. Like Ubiquiti, they launched their new website, and then Mikrotik, we've got some pictures that Andrew shared.
Oh yeah. He dug around in the FCC docs. So if you look in there and you search for the Mikrotik code, it'll show you all the stuff they have submitted with pictures and some descriptions and information and stuff. I actually have his little screenshots pulled up. Let's see if he's got the metal, and then he's got the map in there.
I'm excited about that. That's a nice little fun toy.
I think it's cool. If you look at it though, if you look at the screenshots of the internals, like up in the top right corner, I'm assuming that's the antenna, and it's about the size of a dime.
Yes.
So it is really small. I think you can probably get coverage for probably like 15 feet and lower your sperm count. I think that's about all it's good for. But it looks really cute. I can't wait to get one. I'm not gonna lie.
No Mikrotik, it'll probably be a 3-watt PA on that.
I think it may be based on a TP like an Atheros reference design, because there's actually a few TP-Link access points similar to that.
I've seen them.
Yeah, and in fact, Ripe actually used them for. I don't know if you've ever heard of Ripe Atlas, where you can get these free probes, which are little TP-Link access points with a 4 gig flash. And they load a version of Linux on it, and it dials back to a server, and you can ping all sorts of probes around the internet and just do measurements like of bandwidth, latency, jitter. So like it's pretty cool. Like they got some really cool stats about how when Hurricane Sandy hit New York, that a lot of European customers lost internet connectivity because they were routing, like the likes of Cogent tend to trombone via New York. You know, when they're not getting, when peers in Europe aren't playing ball with them and saying, no, we don't want to link with you there. Go via New York. You know, so. You know, but so there's a lot of that. Like, it's interesting. Sorry. Anyway, go on ahead. Sorry.
No. There's. Let's see. What do they have? They have one that looks like. What did we decide? Was that a smoke detector from 1985?
Yeah, I think that was our discussion. Their mechanical design definitely needs some improvement. We should ship them a solid doodle or something.
A solid doodle. Okay. You know what a solid doodle? It's like a plastic extruder shaped like a pen. So it's like a 3D printer, only you hold it in your hand.
No, yeah, the solid dude. Yeah, they definitely need some improvement on their mechanical design.
Yeah, so it's not the prettiest thing, but I think it's something that they've needed for ages. So it's I mean, it's obviously it's a competitor for the Unify stuff. And now that they have the controller package at least released,
Caps, man.
Yeah, it's still. I mean, it's still really beta, I'm sure. But
I'm waiting for the RB850G2, GX, something like that. It's the 450 form factor with the
yes, that thing looks nice.
Dual core PowerPC.
It's got like the Scorpion CPU. I looked it up a while back. It's going to be a nice little router.
Yeah.
$9 for it, supposedly.
What's the price tag on that?
$129.
Man, that is killer.
Yeah. They need to start putting that CPU on the 493s and the 433s and all that. Get rid of those MIPS.
I think one of the other interesting things they had was the cloud router switch. Is that the one? So yeah, so it's got the wireless, it's got 8 ports, it's got a SFP slot.
They'll probably sell that for like $70. I bet.
The CRS, I bet it's going to be... It just blows my mind that they have a SFP Plus, so it's got a 10 gig interface on this thing.
The Ubiquiti switches look pretty nice.
Yes, I'm very impressed with how those look. I would be excited to use one.
Greg?
I would... I'm going to say anything.
It does look like
nothing to see here. Move along.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I do have some details on them. And I would love to actually put one in my hands and play with it, but they're supposedly, so they're going to be PoE on all the ports. It's the new, it's the whatever the compliance is after AF compliant. I can't remember anymore.
The AT and AF.
Yeah, there you go. So it can support higher wattage is basically what it means, and it does the what is that, phantom power? I used to like to call it ghost power, but it's phantom power.
Ghostbusters.
And so it's supposed to be able to support 24 and 48 volt in the same switch. So you can have a 24 volt AP right here, and then on the next port, 48 port, which I think is really cool. So it's
according to the stuff that I've read, it said that the 48 volt AT/AF standard is auto sensing, and then the 24 volt, it would be manual. So you'd have to enable the passive 24 volt manually. So
that's still that's really
still
cool.
Awesome. And then it looks like from digging around on the internet, the street price for the top of the end or the top of the line 750 watt 48 port, 2 SFP pluses, 2 SFPs. According to their documentation, was it 70 gigabits per second non-blocking? But 999 is the top end router, is MSRP, and then each one below that is $200 less. With the lowest, the 24 port, 250 watt guy, I think it was 250. I'm just pulling this out of my brain. Was 399. So
gotcha. So this is going to be more like especially that top end, more like a high density Unify environment, I guess.
yeah, or maybe a mixed phone Unify. And I'm sure with their phone platform, I mean, their phone platform is, they've got the Unify phone platform. They've kind of put a little bit of information on their new website.
Oh, have they actually started talking about the phones?
Yeah, well, they on the website they put it up. If you look real closely, there's some Easter eggs like on their website if you pay real close attention, and the phone platform is one of those Easter eggs. Like if you go to, I think, Enterprise, the Easter egg that I'm talking about is right there when you go to their website and click on Enterprise. They got www, WAN, LAN, wireless LAN, video, MFi, and they're all like lit up blue. And then they got VoIP, which is still like
soon.
Yeah. So there's that.
That's
it
cool.
Looks like they're gonna have a phone platform.
Well, that's interesting. That'll be interesting to see. I definitely want to play with those as well. So, have you seen anything about the management interface for the switches? Is it all Unify based, or like like controller based, or I'm sure it's gonna have a CLI, right?
Yeah, according to the website, it says industry standard CLI, so I'm sure it's just going to be a direct Cisco ripoff.
Cisco, like, that's fine.
Yeah,
and you know what? It's not. I don't even necessarily call it. I mean, it really is industry standard now. I mean, that's
right. And then it looks like it'll be, from the screenshots that I've seen, it looks like it'll be very similar to the current tough switches on how you would configure VLANs from the GUI. It looks like they just kind of borrowed that code and maybe moved it straight over, or borrowed some of that code. It definitely looks, the screenshots look to have more of an EdgeMax feel, so I would say that the EdgeMax programmers are responsible for this. But
you tried any of the MiFi mPower stuff for tower deployments for power control?
I have not.
No,
but I know the in-wall stuff looks sexy.
I got some of that MFi stuff really early, and I haven't used it much since because I want something significantly larger. I want a 24 or a 48 port MFi. They have a 2.
I got a bunch of it early as well, and one thing I thought was a little bit lacking were the automation capabilities. So having being able to build in triggered events. So if this and this do this kind of thing, there wasn't really that capability. It was more like monitor so you can look at graphs and maybe send an email on a couple of events.
So I think what you're talking about, I think it has come down the pipe, or at least has improved. Okay. I haven't used it lately, but
so another Easter egg that I noticed on the website was a complete unification of all their enterprise products, and it looks like they have they've got screenshots all over their new website of a brand new interface for everything that's labeled Unify. So the camera system, the phone system, the MFIs. So I think the direction that they're moving, which is in my opinion a good direction, is making it just a more unified. I think they're going to have one package that you install that does all of it. And if you pay real close attention to the pictures, it's like I've never seen that software before, and I use Unify every day.
Finally out of beta on the 3, right? 3.2?
3.2.
Yeah, I love the multi-site on that. We do all level 3 adoption on all the APs, and we manage probably 10 sites right now for different customers using Unify. That's awesome.
One controller or multiple controllers?
One controller installation, and then we're just managing multiple sites from that. And
I've got multiple controllers virtualized in ESXi, and I've got to merge them all into one.
Gotcha.
controller now and have multiple sites. That's going to be a fun project at some point.
You'll probably write some Python script that does it all.
I'll probably just forget all the APs and readopt them on the 3.
Gotcha.
It might be easier. There's
I had to do that when I moved into the new controller, and what I wound up doing was Winboxing into the Mikrotik router I had there, and then SSHing into each AP from the Mikrotik, and then
and then you can do the remote upgrade on them and wipe them twice and adopt.
I was gonna say just SSH in, and then could you just set the inform statement to the new controller?
Yeah, but I didn't have I didn't want to do all the port forwarding and all that, so I just did the SSH from the Mikrotik and made it so easy. So
yeah, just VPN into it and go from there.
Yeah, well, no, I just opened Winbox and then opened
terminal.
Oh, just one at a time.
Yeah.
So I deployed it the 321 in a huge environment. I'm sure you guys know where I put it. Not too long ago, and it was really clean upgrade. I didn't lose a single AP. Maybe had to reboot manually 1 or 2, maybe 3 the most out of say 300. So I think that's fairly successful.
Yeah, that is very.
Yeah, and they've hidden some firmware, some pretty substantial firmware updates in there. So I would say definitely look into going if you guys haven't.
Yeah, I've from the beta program, I've been running 3.2 forever. You know, I just even on the production APs because the 2 was not getting it done for me. I would have a lot of Apple devices they just wouldn't connect. It would say, it wouldn't work right, and I just updated every time there was an update. I'd say, okay, yeah, update them all. We'll just wait for the phone calls.
Yeah.
Phone calls, so it was very smooth. So they did a great job on.
I've been running 3.2.1 for a while, and for the July 4th weekend, I had a whole bunch of family over, and I have a guest SSID that's rate limited, but open, so that way anyone can just hop on and use it. But then I go in, if it's people that I like, I turn bandwidth up to unlimited, and I discovered that that didn't actually work. I would set someone to unlimited, do a speed test, and I would get less than the upload of the lower limit on the download side, and then the upload side would be just enormously huge, but then they have like a 2-second ping.
Oh,
I changed SID to unlimited. Everybody's pulling 20 megs down, 20 megs up in 10 milliseconds.
So the individual bypass for some reason is a little wiggy.
Yeah.
On my deployments, I never use any of the stuff for the Unify, the walled garden. I don't use that, or the rate limit or anything like that. I just do it all in the Mikrotik.
I'm using I just did a hospitality network, and I did the what do they call it, the guest, not the portal, but the guest access.
Yeah.
And so I'm doing the layer 2, I guess, stopping broadcast traffic, and then also the only RFC space that they can get to is the gateway, and then I'm doing hotspot on a Mikrotik, and that's working gangbusters. It's doing awesome.
Yeah. I think whenever you enable guest access, it disables, it kills like broadcast, I think it kills multicast, and it does like client isolation, so they can't talk to each other. So it's nice. So it's basically, it just throws a bunch of firewall rules on the access point.
Yeah, I logged in and looked at the config, and it was just a whole bunch of. I seen what they were doing, and it was nice.
Yeah. I guess people don't realize, but it's not all magic. You can actually SSH into the device and see all the configs they stuck on there.
Yeah. So that's what I've been doing to learn what when I click that button, what's it doing. It's nice that when you click that button that you can, you can mess up all your APs at once.
With great power comes great responsibility.
There you go. And then on the more Ubiquiti stuff, I guess they're claim to fame, or after their, you know, everything that is really important to us wireless ISPs is, you know, they announced the AirMax AC with their AirPrism. So,
well, re-announced. They announced it 8 months ago, and now they're saying, "Hey, we did this. We already did that."
Yeah. Well, I also saw that in the latest release candidate from Mikrotik, they added support for 2, I think, Intel AC chipsets.
That's
well.
cool.
So that's I mean, and I googled the cards, and it looks like the cards that support it average about $100 to $120. So
Very nice.
So it's not bad.
They have that new radio too. It's the whole board with the 3 PSMAs on the top of it.
Oh yeah, the Scorpion processor-based one.
It's got like a 720 megahertz processor in it.
Yeah, who's making 3x3 dishes?
Good point.
Maybe RF Elements, you think?
I'm not sure.
Wireless, maybe? I don't know.
The only one I know of is the
I know
MTI
that
one.
Chicago 2012 Ubiquiti showed up there with some devices that were probably not supposed to be there, and one of those devices was a 3-chain titanium radio, and they've not said another peep about that. So I would personally suspect that they're having problems keeping the oscillation at distance on the 3-chain radios. That's
the router board 953 GS-5HNT.
God, I wish they would just come out with names like
cars. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though I'm not going to use it, that's probably my favorite new Mikrotik product.
This thing has SFP slots on it.
Yeah, that's exactly why I love it. It's an AP with SFPs, so that you can isolate
mini PCI Express card slots. I think it's got it all.
It's you can isolate the data from the power, so that way all your lightning doesn't go down into your switch. It goes into a dedicated DC plant. It's just so much nicer to do it SFPs, but that's the only AP that has it. It's really common for licensed radios, but no one else in the cheap space does it.
Okay, so I've seen Mike say this a couple of times about the Rocket AC to jump around a little bit more.
Jump around.
Stop it, Mike.
The Rocket AC Lite, I guess is what they're calling it. Does it or does it not have the AirPrism in it?
No. Ben Moore says no.
Okay.
And Ben Moore also says it's only point-to-point for now.
Got it.
It sounds like it will firmware upgrade to multi-point, but for AirPrism it would definitely be different hardware.
Okay, so I guess that's the reason they stuck the word light on it. This is, they probably just took the board out of the Unify AC and stuck it in there.
Its list price, I believe, is $135.
Okay.
So it's a lot less than an AC Unify.
Any, not to jump around even more, but any news on the Mimosa stuff?
For people that don't have NDAs, I guess that's what he means.
Yeah, I don't have anything new to say, but it looks to be really nice.
The pictures are very pretty.
How nice is nice?
Mind melting.
Like, if I ask you 3 times, will you give in and just give us the raw hard facts? I don't know. Go to
their website. I think they have a little. There's some public information on the.
Yeah, there's some public information.
Is the public information optimistic or pessimistic?
Oh, it's optimistic.
Or realistic.
I guess for all the guys listening that don't know what they're talking about, Mimosa is a new wireless manufacturer that's going to be coming out, who are going to be competing in the kind of the WISP space. Who is it? What are these? Who were the guys, the money men that came from this? Like
they're the guys, Polycom guys.
That's right, Polycom guys. So they supposedly they're not using like Atheros chipsets. They're not using the Tinker Toys. They're coming out with custom silicone, right?
Well, the company
Quintera
chipsets, is Quintera, which is going to make chipsets for other people. but Mimosa's been working with the Quantenna guys to make the original chipset do what they want. They don't have to work so hard to take something meant for a laptop to work outdoors.
So the big advantage that I've seen with all this is their claim to fame is MUMIMO, which is massively multiple in, multiple out, is their buzzword. And so their initial product offering, they're talking about having like 8x8 MIMO over the air at distance.
More problems.
That just
So
that many antennas sounds complicated.
Well, maybe they don't have to do it with more antennas. They can do it with phasing, and there's other ways to accomplish it. I mean, you've got left-hand circular polarization, right-hand circular polarization,
Right.
vertical, horizontal. So that's 4x4. And then if they do,
wax on, wax off.
Yeah, but the tricks with that is like the circular ones have like specific characteristics which are better for certain environments, right?
yeah.
Whereas like the other polarizations will work better.
But if you're blasting away with everything you got, something's going.
something's gonna stick, and damn any other bastard that happens to be anywhere near your frequency space, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's and look, from the information that I've gotten, it will be faster than any unlicensed product that has been announced that I'm aware of. Pretty cost effective compared to some of the other higher end unlicensed products.
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing too.
And it will come connectorized or integrated.
Hopefully, it's not vaporware.
Yeah. Cautiously optimistic, right?
Yeah. I mean, if it truly manifests itself, it'll be some very neat hardware. And then looking at their petition to the FCC, as you know, as a huge proponent for amateur radio, I'm on the fence about their ban proposal for the 10 gig.
Their 10 gigahertz stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So, as an amateur radio guy and the culture that I grew up in, I say hell no. But as a business owner, I say that would be awesome. So I'm really on the fence about it because I come from both cultures.
It's like West Side Story.
Yeah.
You want a dance fight?
Funny guy.
Indeed. So yeah, the Mimosa stuff. You know what? And I've been hearing from a lot of big boys about it. A lot of big wisps I know. So there's buzz.
Traction.
Yeah.
It's and actually, I'm not sure. I haven't heard much details as far as the actual product, but there are other companies coming out with product based upon that same Quantenna chipset. So it'll be interesting to see what they come out with.
No, I mean, if they just dump the chipset, what's gonna keep, say, a Ubiquiti or a Mikrotik from throwing some cards
They outline the advantages that they have, basically a head start.
Oh yeah. I mean, all those other companies that are using the same chipset, they're not as far along in the process. They weren't the ones working with Quantenna to get what they wanted. Not to say that they're not going to make something decent of it. I mean, afterwards you've got Cambium and Radwind and Mikrotik and Ubiquiti, and they're all making completely different platforms off of the same chip.
Right, but how long does it?
Sorry.
I was just gonna say, how long does it take to buy one of their boards and then just disassemble the layers one by one and look at how it's put together?
Right, and I mean, if you look at all the Ubiquiti stuff, usually their first generation stuff is just a reference design with their particular paint on it, if you will. I mean, they put their paint job on it and put their software in it, and that's generally what a lot of their wireless stuff has been to date. With the exception of AirFiber, they rolled their own on that one.
I would hope that Mimosa put something together, some feature, something that they're licensing in that chipset, so that way they get a taste no matter who uses the product, I guess.
Yeah. Do they have like what sort of OS is it? Is it very limited feature, high throughput, or is it more like super flexible, like let's say Ubiquiti on the command line or Mikrotik on the GUI or command line? Is it highly is it a layer 3 device, or is it more like Cambian?
Or is it controller based? Yeah, like centralized.
From what I have seen, it's less Mikrotik. You're not doing BGP on this device,
Right.
but I mean, just due to the sheer amount of other technology available, it's going to be capable of doing more than than your standard Ubiquiti or LIGO Wave or whatever. Just due to having new technology.
And is the interface hideously complicated, or is it simple? As in, like a slider button, slow, fast. Slow, fast.
Let's see here. What can I say about that? I've seen more complicated and I've seen less complicated.
So you're saying it's somewhere between Mikrotik and Ubiquiti?
That it's not nearly as bad as the original Mikrotik web interface.
Oh god, that thing was so hideous. The first time I ever used a Mikrotik router, on the box, you get the box and you look at it, it says, go to 192.168.88.1. So I go there and I'm like, why is everybody, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs over these Mikrotiks? It's just a DHCP server. If you remember that original web interface that they had?
Oh, it's hideous.
It was hideous.
I was using Mikrotik for 2 weeks before I realized they had a Winbox interface. I was amazed at it. I actually fell in love with it. I was typing in and went, wow, the commands stick, because there was some amount of on the market that, when you type in the command and it depended on your browser and it depended on this, and then you'd reboot it and it would lose its config. And this one was like, hold it. I was like, oh my god. And I was on a RAP board. So RAP 2C. That's what I installed it on. I actually just borrowed have I lost you? Or
No, you're still rocking.
Yeah, no, basically, yeah. So because I had this one, it was a custom version of Linux and it was terrible. And then I started with Star OS, and I thought that was amazing because it had the OKs on boot up, which I thought was kind of neat. and then Mikrotik came, and I was like, oh my god, and you can do ... and it goes up a level, and I was like, yeah, this is the bee's knees. But yeah, no, the Mikrotik. Can I just rant about their wireless interface? Have you ever tried to train someone on that?
Plus, each version, they tweak and change stuff, and it's so complicated.
When they brought out I sent them an email about the interface, and I said, have you ever tried to explain the modes to someone? And clearly they have, but I don't think they've done it in English, because I said, you've got bridge but not a bridge. Like, the bridge mentioned about 4 times in the wireless interface, and they all have different meanings, and some of them don't even refer to bridging. It's kind of so
then you've got the WDS, which is also a bridging technology. And it's a whole can of worms.
It's not mentioned. And then there's you've got bridge. So you go AP bridge, which is not actually a bridge,
really
and then you have bridge mode enabled at the bottom. And then they stuck in multicast helper. I thought that was great because it was exactly the place you'd put it, not near the MT, because I believe that's an IP based thing. But instead of putting it where they had the MTU, the ARP, and all that, they said, let's just stuff it in the busiest place. And then what we'll do is we'll bury all the other settings that you might actually use
under an advanced tab.
Yeah.
Under an advanced tab. And what we'll do is we'll leave the proprietary extensions feature that I don't think anyone has ever touched in the last 6 years, but we'll leave that in pride of place. So, to whoever in Mikrotik who designed that, fuck you. No, seriously, I mean, and I'm sorry to my, basically me and Mikrotik are in a bad place. We're arguing a lot.
No.
Just stick with the quick set, and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
That's all
just-
They keep adding all these great features to it.
This quick set is just like, look, that's just going to turn into every setting on the board in an Excel spreadsheet. The quick set is just a demonstration of how they, let's say, they wouldn't last long in Apple. Let's just put it that way.
Right.
Anyway,
Right. I can't, Tom.
Please
Can I say I just can't wait to see you again?
He is definitely hilarious.
You're killing me, brother. It's been so long, and I need a good laugh. I needed this.
Pittsburgh, Mum.
It's gonna be
Yeah.
Pittsburgh is whatever. I don't know anything about
Yeah.
Pittsburgh. Is anything in Pittsburgh? What's going on there?
The brothers.
I'll be there probably because I can drive there. I'll
drive.
probably end up flying.
Kim's gonna come up with me, so
Gotcha.
Well, are you gonna drive?
probably.
You can stop by and pick me up.
Okay.
Bunch of savages. I'm
Sort of on
flying.
the way, I guess.
just a question. What do you think about the wireless interface? You've all been very silent.
Oh,
Was it speaking your minds, or were you
It's
horrified?
the most difficult part. I would rather configure multicast routing on a 100 router network than I would try and decipher the wireless settings. Like
As a
to this
wireless
day,
guy, it's my language. Like
Ugh.
I went there and it was just like, oh yeah, I know what all these things are. And then I'll go over to BGP or MPLS. I'm like, what is all this crap?
No, but like what frustrates me is, right, they went from the FP package to wireless. The way they had HT above and below, and then they went CE and EC. Yeah, because that's so intuitive. And then HT, I was like, I think they focus more on translating an RFC so that someone reading the RFC would actually understand it. The 5 people in the world that actually read the RFCs.
I
Right?
read those.
But the rest, I know, but you're one of the 5.
yeah, you're one of the 5.
Yeah, but the rest of us, I was kind of going, they want a wireless link to perform quick. They don't want a degree in astrophysics.
But you know what? Also, I think would mitigate all this really easily is every time they put out. So there needs to be a wiki page of this is exactly how you configure a standard wireless interface. And when they update a version and add a feature, they go to that wiki page and update it. And give you some real world examples of here to here. This is what you should do in point to multipoint. This is how you should configure it in point to point. Just some common things for the common man to understand. And I know there's a whole lot on the wiki and the forums, but it's all spread out and a lot of it's antiquated. And they just need one central place. Because I love options. I love features. I'm not saying take it away. I'm just saying put one central place where I can go and as a layperson understand quickly.
I think that, it is a great product. I just think that their lack of interest in the interface design or a workflow of an engineer the only word I can just use to describe it is either ambivalence or just apathy. They just don't care. And I think, genuinely it is frustrating because, I've said it in a nice way for 9 years or 6 years or 7 years. And it just doesn't seem to, for me, they could be so, they're an 8 out of 10. They could be an 11 out of 10, if they were in Spinal Tap.
So you just want them to go get a boob job. That's just that last little piece they need.
I want the guitar amplifier to go all the way up to 11. That's what I want.
But you know what? Maybe you hit the nail on the head right there by saying apathy. Because, what's 90% of the new products they've been putting out? They're just straight routers, no wireless. So maybe, excuse me, maybe they're just trying to focus on routers now.
Switches.
Right, but that's like Soho wireless. That's like Office wireless. It's not.
Right.
It's not. It's not WISP's sort of wireless. So is that the shift they're trying to make?
SXT, the Sextants, the.
Oh yeah, but
953s.
But generally, just look at what they're doing as far as their wireless goes. They're putting out new boards, but they're not really innovating. There's nothing really new. They're just kind of putting out new stuff where all the innovation I see is coming on the router side.
Yeah. The kind of going back to that same topic, I was reading on the forum the other day, the Mikrotik forum, and I was, when I was doing all my research on NAT64, which I'm still not finished with, but you go on their forum and you start researching NAT64, and it was the articles that I read. It sounded like they didn't even know what it was. Like, you got your typical answer from Mikrotik on the forum where they're seemingly talking down to the person asking the question, trying to explain to them how they don't, that it supports this specific dual stack technology, and kind of telling the guy he didn't know what he was talking about, and then he schooled them, and then there was no more interaction there.
Well, like,
so it was the internet.
But like but I had this, right? I remember the first one I was at, they used to do a questions and answer session. So the owners, Ernest and John, would be up at the top, and Tom obviously grabbed the mic and asked the question, and I said, so I was just after sitting the MTC&A, and I was like, and they said they cover OSPF, and it was about half an hour. So I kind of asked, oh, can you do like a routing course, like, and specializations, And so I remember Ernest just dismissing it, like, and kind of cracking a joke, or like going, who needs 3 days to learn OSPF? And I just put in the mic, I do. He just didn't realize that I don't mind slacking myself off, but I was like, yeah, I actually probably do need 3 days to learn a routing protocol that everyone else seems to train in 3 days too. But you know what I mean? Like, and it was funny because in their own way, they kind of slag you off when you make a suggestion. I'm sure they're spitting at the screen if they're watching this now. But then they actually take it on and go, we came up with this new idea, and it's called a 3-day routing course.
But, I'm
6 to 9 months later.
Yeah, I've kind of wondered, is that just a cultural thing? Maybe that's just, I don't know, how they kind of interpret things over there. Is that...
Perhaps, where Americans will just be like, oh yeah, that's a great idea, and then they just blatantly steal it from
Oh
them.
yeah, absolutely.
Huawei?
Or you just say, how are you doing that thing? All right, let me do that over here.
You do rockets, you're coming over with me. You kill some of our troops, you're hanging.
Oh.
I know, but Von Braun was pretty cool, like, wasn't he? I thought in fairness, I think he was just a scientist who wanted to send things into space. Did a good job.
For sure. Didn't we take Einstein from Germany? Is that where he came from?
Well, I think he was a refugee because he was Jewish.
There you go.
It was a good catch,
Yeah, we'll keep that one. We'll take him.
Absolutely. No, pity not more of them were saved because, like, even in Ireland, we took only 200. Like, more could have been done to save more people. Anyway, moving swiftly on. It's nothing to do with WISPs. It's really depressing. But like, no, but it's sad. Like, but no, anyway, but no, wireless interfaces. You need something like that's one thing I would say about Ubiquiti, and they do focus on the workflow, and they are more Apple-esque. They do consider the user more rather than a kernel developer.
Yeah. Well,
right. I think that's what you get when you have a founder that came from a company that's all they do.
Was designed, yeah.
Yeah.
I think, and also I look at Ubiquiti kind of like Legos. You snap them together. So you've got the wireless piece. All she does is wireless. It doesn't do anything else. Super easy to configure. And you take a router and you just snap it on top. Whereas Mikrotik is the Swiss Army knife that has 250 blades, and so figuring out how to operate each one is really cumbersome sometimes.
Without cutting yourself.
Exactly. Yeah, without dropping it and taking a toe off. It can be kind of difficult. So I could see the benefit there, obviously, of the wireless stuff. It really needs to be simplified.
So with Mikrotik now getting into, routing platforms that are, arguably on the same par as, like ASRs, with like the 1072, that's pretty impressive. If it had hot swappable power supplies, and it then version 7.
Version 7. I think Tom's got toilet paper that says version 7 just so he can wipe his ass with it every day.
Look, I have no problem. I just
But yeah. So I mean, they have stepped up their game. So they've got two power supplies, not necessarily hot swappable, but there are 2 power supplies.
No, it's good.
One thing that they lack, I guess, is dual supervisor. But if you're looking for a router with dual supervisor, you could always go with 2 routers. Honestly, you could go with 2 of those Mikrotiks, and it would still be less expensive than a Cisco chassis that's got dual power supplies.
You can buy all 10 of them.
Yeah.
It would be less expensive.
Like I have to temper my criticism of Mikrotik, and I remember I made a few setting changes a little bit too quickly, and I crashed the router. And I remember thinking, Jesus, Tom, it's times like this I just want to go out and buy a $250,000 router, you know. And then I went, okay, I spent $2.5 grand on 2 routers, not too bad, you know. I'm winning, but still,
yeah,
they're not perfect. They're kind of like, if I was to do an analogy, it's kind of like a girlfriend who does everything for you, but sometimes it drops things. She drops things, and it's so frustrating when she does, and you know she's great at giving. Okay, you know, she's a giver, she's a receiver, she's wonderfully talented, and she doesn't give out that much, but sometimes she drops things, and it just wrecks my head. So maybe I'm just that asshole boyfriend who just can't appreciate it. Or maybe I just need a bit of strange.
And I say she speaks a different language, right?
I need to go to the dark side and realize how.
I'll absolutely say I'm thoroughly impressed. The 1072 is, it's basically, I don't know if people have seen it or not, but it's the one they announced in Italy at the Italian month. It's a 72 core. I think it's 8 SFP pluses, so it's basically a fiber aggregation apparatus.
Yeah, it's a scary router. That's a scary router.
Yeah,
No.
I mean, it's sick.
It's pretty cool, but the only thing is the individual cores. I'm worried about the speed of the individual cores, and I think
Version
they should
7.
be harnessing more. And I've said this pretty much at every, like, it's kind of like, okay, if you're going to transport a big package across the Atlantic, you don't split them up into 72 little dinghies. You know what I mean? You kind of go, and you put them on a container.
Right.
And I think in ways like they should be, I just wish Mikrotik had an x86 router of their own that they could make money on.
Right. So I guess more or less what you're alluding to is right now a lot of processes are single-threaded, right? So like your BGP process is single-threaded. I think your queues, your simple queues are single-threaded. So
No,
Is that a 7?
Simple
queues are multi-threaded with the 3 queue.
well, I thought if you have, say you have a simple queue and you put say 192.168.0.0/24, if you have 250 hosts in there, all creating simple queues, then that's one thread controlling them.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So it's, if you could somehow magically kind of spread the load across all that. So right now x86 is still a really good solid option because of those single threaded. So theoretically in this cloud floating around is version 7, and it's supposed to fix all of these things, right? Everything's supposed to magically be multi-threaded, right?
I don't know, like I'd like to. I just wish I wish I could just like have some influence, because obviously I have none, because they just ignore me as an old cranky asshole from Ireland. But like they should have, like how many times have we been told, oh, it'll be fixed in the next release,
right,
or the next version, the next version, the next version, the next version, the next version.
Right.
So I'm waiting for version 17.
Well, I'm also curious. You know, like, I mean, to your point, if you look at the change history on version 6, count. So what are we at? We're at 6.15 right now.
6.15.
Yeah, I would say count how many times.
If you want to play with AEC.
So count how many times in the change log they listed fixed CCR 100% or fixed CCR crash. It's probably going to be at least 10 out of the 15 revisions they fixed that. So it's next version, next version, next version. It's so there's obviously a huge problem that just, I don't know where
No,
that's
don't get me wrong, I don't mind progress, but like if they say they're going to bring in a new release after saying to me in version 5 they were going to fix things and they haven't done it yet. I think that's unfair to the user base.
Right.
And
well, on top of that, if you look at their software licensing and the way that they do, okay, well, when we sell you an x86 license, you get 2 full point releases. So they have to stay on track, you know, to move forward just financially.
Absolutely, no. JJ, I'd agree with you. But like when I was talking to Arnis about this, Jesus, 6 years ago, I was saying you should have a bigger license, and I you know, because he says it's not that interesting to us, the software. You know, we make money in the hardware, and I said, but that's easily solved. You know, you just have to start charging for the software. You know, and I just think there's an option missing where people say I need this fixed now or fixed yesterday, and I think there's a market there where Mikrotik doesn't have access to because of that lack of.
Are you talking about support contracts where people pay for certain things to be fixed?
Yes, and it should get fixed.
At the MUM in New Orleans, they feigned interest, like you know, talking to John Tully about it, and he's like, yeah, we can make money selling that. This is stuff we're doing for free already. Yes, you can sell this.
Yeah. Well,
and then he's like, Arnis is gonna have a job when we get back, and here it is a year and a half later, and.
Yeah. Well, I mean, also, if you think about it, like, and Cisco realized this not too long ago, when you make a solid product that just works, like Cisco switches and routers, people tend to hang on to them for a long time, and then when they go gray market, people tend to buy the gray market. So they had to realize, you know, we're not, in the long term, going to be making as much as we were on hardware. So let's start utilizing some of the software stuff, and that's where the licensing kicks in, and that's where the support kicks in. So, you know,
I mean, I don't want to see them start saying, "Oh, here's router OS that doesn't have OSPF, BGP, this, that," you know. And if you want that, then pay this fee.
Oh no, absolutely not. I hate it when Cisco starts.
The package is $10, and the wireless is $20. You know, break it up into little packages and sell it a la carte. That'd be a bad idea.
No, but like, you know, like it's just, you know, they could, like, I think the CR72 is a great router. I think it'll be great, but I think it'll have its Achilles heels, which is the individual speed of the individual core, and I think that they're kind of holding back the x86 platform pretty much on purpose, rather than actually letting it.
Well, they've
free.
absolutely at the US MUM in 2011 or 2010, I can't remember which one. I've heard them say that. Giannis said someone asked a question about multi.
Right.
Yeah. And he said we make router boards, and that was his answer.
Yeah, it was when are we going to see 64-bit on x86? And he was like, "What do you need that for? We have a router board that does it."
I asked that, and I asked that question, and I have to say I love Giannis, but that probably wasn't the brightest answer he's ever given to a question. Like, you know, hi Giannis, but no, like he's a great guy, but I just think they're missing out the billions of dollars of investment, and everyone else seems to, like, wouldn't it be nice to say you have like what the guys with Hot Lava were doing with their cool routers, you know, or with their
that was very impressive. 180 gig full duplex, is that what that demo was?
Yeah, it was 180 gig. I think that was aggregate throughput, so maybe 90 full, but like it's still fucking impressive. Excuse my language, and like, but. Why don't they want to harness that stability-wise and have them going up a level? But no, they want to. Are we going to wait 10 years for the cloud cores to be up at that level?
So, what would be the benefit of a 64-bit x86 version of router OS besides
memory addressing, I suppose.
Memory addressing, the encryption speeds, also just for pipelining. There's a load of software optimizations that with the x86 architecture that you're kind of cock-blocked at 32. You know what I mean? Like, like you know yourselves, like when you moved to 64, there was just natural increases in performance. Like, just think of it like this: there's a whole, like the number of registers available and all that are massively increased, just for parallelization alone. So, you know,
they probably just have to throw the extra flag on the compiler to just optimize it for it.
I personally think that, you know, there's a lot of guys who've spent a lot of money on x86 routers, on power routers, on microbits from Indonesia, Ogma Connects from ourselves, or on Intel or HP or Dell as hardware, and they would all notice a bounce and, you know, get some better performance out of it. And I think it's a bit stupid and narrow-minded and kind of petty. I'm trying to find an intelligent reason why you wouldn't actually set your platform free. Like, you saw how excited they were about the Teleras being
make router boards.
Like, you know, like, that's being stupid. They also make router OS, and it's like they don't care about router OS, but they make router boards. Like, I mean, you know, it just makes.
I completely get you. It's,
yeah. Well, I mean, the router OS is the heart and soul of the platform. Without router OS, there is no Mikrotik. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, even though they may not have the hardware revenue from an x86 customer, I would suspect that the x86 based customer is more likely a more serious, larger, more professional customer that would pay for the support and the other value-added services that don't have that much of a fixed
and they're probably
cost.
aggregating. Absolutely, Mike. And they're probably aggregating more router boards,
right?
Because they make router boards. But you know, but like, it's true. Like, we're an all Mikrotik house. You know, like, I love it, but I'm in a kind of frustrated place at the moment. I'm out in the cold. I'm in the doghouse. But like, it's a great product, but you know, it could be so much better. But I just think sometimes there's just a lack of vision, for the want of a better word. Like, you can look at Capsman.
I seriously hope that they do a lot of these things that we've talked about, especially with the service contracts, because lots of times, you know, I'll bid a job with Mikrotik, and then, you know, someone else has bid it, you know, with a Cisco or a Juniper or this or that, whatever the platform is, and it's, you know, it's just tens of thousands of dollars more, and then they'll look at it and be like, what is this crap?
Yeah, I know. I actually, for a non-profit, they were looking at, I can't remember, I think it was like 10, 15, somewhere in that neighborhood, routers, and so they wanted to do like this centralized management, blah blah blah, and all this other crap. I think it was content filtering. So they were going to do, from this reseller, they were going to do sonic walls, because they did centralized management. You had to load it on the server, did the content filtering. So I said, okay, what's your quote? Okay, 18.5 grand was the quote for that. And so I said, well, for your throughput, you could do 750s at each site and use OpenDNS. And
that is an awesome content.
Yeah. So I was like, what do you need centralized management for? These routers, you put them in, you configure them once, you never have to touch them again. Throw one on the shelf, we're good. And so I got them all in for under, I think it was like $500, right?
And then you charged them 10 grand.
I didn't. It was a non-profit, and I was doing it through another place. So
I don't be nasty. Sorry.
I did it just for the. So and I honestly, I have a soft spot for those non-profits. They come to me. I can't say no. But
such a socialist. Oh my god.
No, it's karma. I'm expecting that the good karma to come back to me. It has nothing to do with socialism. This is all completely self-serving.
It's good. No, I think it's good to be altruistic. No. I'm only pulling your chain.
Well, what eats me up on stuff like that is like, and I know I've completely diverged from the point, but what eats me up on stuff like that is, even if I charge them $5 grand for the equipment and the service, I would still be saving a ton of money, you know, and nonprofits, you know, every dime that they save, they put towards kids and stuff, right? But anyway, coming back around, like with a support contract, even if I could do it for $500, they still balked at first, because there wasn't like this.
You've got to be cutting corners if you're doing
officials, you know. And one of the, and you know what, the reseller, they sent all the information I sent to him to that reseller that had quoted him. I was like, oh guys, don't do that. That is,
don't do that.
Don't do that. And so they looked at the 750s, and one of the features of the 750 is a included plastic case, and they were like, oh, well, how good can this be when they boast about having a plastic case, you know? So it's
yeah.
It's like, you know, and then they're like, yeah, there's no support, so it's
No,
something to kind of
look.
It's
Hurdle you have
definitely
to
a
go
dog
over.
and pony show. Like I run into this constantly where, you know, if you're not, I mean, if you're not parading and, you know, just putting on this specific show, and Americans eat it up. I don't know why. I'm not one of the particular ones that it appeals to, but they just, if there's not some big marketing campaign that they heard on the radio on the way to work and seen, in, you know, Google AdWords while they're at work and then watched on the television when they went home, then it's not a real, you know, a viable solution. Or a perfect example is Barracuda. You walk around airports, everywhere
Yeah.
you go, Barracuda, Barracuda, Barracuda. So all these business tops, they see that and they're inundated with that. And so when they want to talk about content filtering, this and that, the very first words that I hear are, "Are you going to use Barracuda?" No, I'm not.
No, like and like it's. But even if you look at the ad for the 2011 on Mikrotik, and they talk about, you know, it has 128 megs RAM. You know, what's its throughput? How many VPN tunnels can it have? What can it do? You know, rather than go, you know, boasting about, you know, 128 megs of RAM on a router. Like, I mean, when was the last time someone picked up a TP-Link and went, I wonder how much RAM it has? Don't get me wrong, one of the feature requests I'm going to have, which will obviously be denied because of this broadcast, will be, basically I was saying 750s with 2 gigs of RAM. And I know you're thinking, Tom, what the but I was thinking for like having loads of routes for black holing and stuff like that, so you could just push out a policy with BGP, and it'd be nice, you know, even though it'd probably take the smaller processors a week to get through that route and longest prefix match. But like, I don't know, it's a great product and it could be so much better, you know.
All right, so I'm saying
And
that
that's what's frustrating.
Mikrotik needs to officially launch like a small community-driven board. So it'll be, and this is just off the top of my head, random people. It would be Tom Smyth. It could be Mike, Hammet, Justin Miller, JJ Boy, Justin Wilson, and Frank Sowell. We would gladly be an advisory board to say Mikrotik, where they could bounce ideas. So, hey, we're thinking about doing this, guys. What do you think? We could say, no, don't do that. Do this over here. I think that would be
200K plus car.
right.
Just
Very
like
generous expense.
Just like the new cloud features in the new version, it's like, okay, well, the dynamic
they
DNS,
did
that's
this
pretty
thing.
cool, but it's
Yeah.
not configurable at all. So what if I'm using multiple LANs and one of them is down, and it's like, okay, well, now I don't know what IP address it's on. There's no configurability. So I guess maybe it'll come in the future.
Yeah, no, in fairness, I think they're dipping their toes. It was a good idea. I didn't even come up with it myself. So, you know, it was, it was a good idea, but I just, like Capspan, you know, the concept of it I get, but when you actually look at the fucking interface, it's going,
Yeah.
Look at that interface and then look at Unify.
pardon?
I said, look at Capspan interface, look at Unify. They're kind of the same thing.
I mean, that's
But-
their competition. They're not competing with the Cisco controller. They're not competing with Ruckus controller. They're competing directly with Unify. That's their only competition. So,
And even if it works better, it looks like junk.
It's just like, I mean, I think we'll need a 4-week course for that one. I don't think we'll learn.
Well, I think from things I've seen on the forum, what we will see is we'll see them get Capsman working in a usable fashion, and then we're going to see a dude update or something similar. Or maybe it's just wishful thinking.
We're done. We're done.
uh,
You're high in the sky now. Pink elephants flying. It's
You don't think so?
Seven?
I think they'll add Caps Manager support into a program, whether it's the dude or not. I hope it is, but maybe that's just me hoping and
well, I
dreaming.
guess if it was in the dude, you could do that dude package thing and run it on a router at the local site, right?
Yeah.
Your Capspan from there.
Like, they just need to focus on the workflows. And, you know, fair enough, there probably are a few trainers who are pissed off at me for saying that because they've got to update all their documentation. But I think it'd be very worthwhile, very worthwhile. Because like what actually I love Mikrotik, and I've used it, and when you learn it, it makes sense and all that. But when you actually have to try and communicate with a person who doesn't know it, how it works, and the logic behind it, the logic behind the interface, the logic behind the interface and the logic of actually doing the work are two very different things. There's no connect between them, unfortunately. You know, and that, I don't think enough thought has gone into the interface.
Like all of the routed interfaces and all the routing features, that directly translates to anything you learn from Cisco or Juniper or whoever. If you're just doing straight Linux routers, that all makes sense. It all translates.
As far as metaphors go, it's like getting in a different car and adjusting the mirrors and figuring out where the turn signals are
the
at.
The wireless interface.
Well, no,
it
was like getting out of a car and into the space shuttle. Or, or maybe a 1960s 747. They haven't quite got to the single console with the nice lady voice going, your engine power is a bit low there, you might want to push it up a bit.
And all of your...
No, but like, I think on the Eurofighter, like one of the big things they were saying about the design of the Eurofighter, which is apparently meant to be like 20 years into the future, but it's 20 years behind schedule, so it's now in the past, it's obsolete. But
is that some airplane that you guys are making that's supposed to...
Yeah, but it's like 20 years behind schedule, so when it comes off the platform, it'll be already obsolete. So, but they had actually a deadly cockpit design, and they were actually spent loads of money on thinking, I'm a pilot, I'm trying to shoot at a plane, preferably not a passenger jet like some dickheads in
the Ukraine. Yeah,
and fucking assholes.
That's great. You know what I first saw? I was like, oh my god, they found the Malaysian flight. They got shot in the Ukraine. And I was like, no, it's another one. Oh.
It's missing 4, I think.
Yeah.
But no, it's terrible. Like, I mean, stupid assholes supplying arms to another bunch of stupid assholes.
But I'm going to say that the Dude is by far my favorite monitoring piece of software that I've used.
I like Observium, but I can't get the thing to work right.
Now, as far as charting goes, the Dude has crappy charts, but everything else, I just like the weather map. I just love
for like a What's Up Gold replacement. The Dude is like awesome.
The Dude is great, but here's the thing: you have a load of Mikrotik routers, right? It's about 3 clicks to open up a Winbox session on it, or 4 clicks. To open up the settings, it's 1 click. So the setting that you use to set it up initially is 1 click, but the thing you'll actually use to manage the device is about 3 or 4 clicks.
Yeah,
this is again...
Winbox should not be under tools. It should be right there, right when you right-click.
If Steve Jobs was there a week, what would happen is you'd have a few developers
he'd probably
quit. And that probably wouldn't be a bad thing, and they'd replace them with developers who can do what they're told. And like I feel pretty strongly about that, but there's absolutely zero thought gone into what a user actually does with the software. And it's like, let's do it in 5 clicks because that's cool, and they can't be arsed changing it.
It must be the same programmers that did the Metro interface for Windows 8. It's like, okay, have you shut down a Windows XP computer, programmer? And then you go on a Windows 8.1 or 8 computer, and it's like, okay, shut it down. It's like
it took
7
me forever to figure out how to log out the first time. Yeah. You could find your name and click it. What?
Even Windows 7, like I think it's pretty nice, but actually one of the annoying things is you actually have to right-click more to actually open up applications than you do. Like XP was actually pretty smooth. Windows 7 had nice visual features and switch modes. The problem is that if I want to open up another instance of Word, I have to right-click, I have to select, then I might have to run it as administrator and have to do. But like, in fairness to Steve Jobs, a lot of things I disagree with him, like, the bubble that he wanted all Mac users to live in. But you know what? The stuff just made sense, And like, even the colors of the add remove. Do you remember that was a feature I requested? In fairness, they implemented it in 6. If you look at an old version 5 system, you'll see that the plus was red, the minus was blue, the enable was blue, and the disable was red. So they had there was no color code. So I asked for green.
Who cares?
All right, sorry. They should be great. There should be an equal opportunities
That's
one.
right.
Okay, colorblind experience, and it's just all great. But like, no, like, you know, there's so much great. Look, it's great product and all that, but I'm just very, in a very frustrated place at the moment.
Sounds like you're at right now where I was at with Ubiquiti last time we had a cast. I was pretty frustrated.
Yeah, no, you were. Actually, I thought you were like going proper, like that you were going to go out shooting AirFibers and stuff like that. You know, but I think you were a stage 9. You know, I'm a stage 11. I think. I'm not going to. Actually, you know, what are the cloud core switches like?
I haven't touched one.
I haven't touched one.
I think Andrew Cox has a little bit, but I honestly don't even think he's put it in production. I think he's just played with it.
Quick question about the Ubiquiti ones. What chipset are they using on the Ubiquiti switches? Are they Marvell, Broadcom, or are they using Atheros as well?
I haven't cracked one open.
Okay, I'm going to link in with Robert on LinkedIn and say, connect with me. I mean, he's going to go, thank you, Tom. No, it's probably not. He's going to go, who is this Tom dickhead? Anyway.
No, he has people to say that. He wouldn't even say it himself. He'll just have his people call you a dickhead.
He lets other people read his LinkedIn profile. Is he not paranoid? I'd be worried. I'd be worried that they lape me. You know. Fillet me for rape me, is it? Yeah. You know, like Facebook rape. Okay, I'm moving too fast. LinkedIn rape. So liar rape. Okay, anyway, moving on.
It's complicated.
Can you edit that joke, please? That was one.
No, I'm going to stretch it out so that it's even more painful.
Yeah, it's kind of like...
We're in a loop.
Just give me a second. Yeah, no, I'm going to get it now. This is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, no. But,
yeah, I was. So we moved into a new house. I've been cleaning out, and I found this in a box a minute ago. It's a 2010 Q3 guide.
Nice.
Got some sweet hardware in there. I think they're...
Is
that the RB1100 announcement?
Yeah, it actually is the RB1100 in there. Jesus, yeah. JJ, what's wrong with you?
What?
How do you remember that?
I don't know.
411s. A bunch of 411s. Are real proud of those. RB800 got announced.
411s were a very solid board.
750s. 750G. Yeah, so this is really old. That was when the 250GS came out, right? And they were giving those away free?
Jeez, I found one today that was new in box, and I used it.
We bought a rig of them, and then we didn't sell any for years. Then I started giving them away, like as prizes, like in class. And then people started trying to buy them off us. We were like, so I kind of created an artificial demand by flooding them. You know, people actually went, well, yeah, they're handy. But the interface was easier to make, you know. Anyway. Sorry, guys.
Circled right back around.
Yeah, it's full circle.
Yeah, no. This is more of a support group counselling session. You should all be on comfortable couches with notepads and pens and then go, Tom, Xanax. Ow. But, no. But, to be fair, like I was giving out, remember of one of just the chats I was giving out about the IPsec features, and I asked for help, I said urgently, and fairness, Mikrotik came into the rescue, and it was operator error. So there are times that I'm wrong, and I'd like to admit it, and I'm willing to learn. I just wish some of the interface designers were also willing to learn.
You know what I've started switching around to on my IPsec. So I've never had a really solid Mikrotik to Cisco ASA IPsec. Have you guys done that? For some reason,
I tried it on Juniper, and I wish that I had that week and a half of my life back.
I've done it plenty of times and in many situations, but it never seems to be like 100% solid. So if you're going like to a Cisco device to Cisco device, it just always works with an IPsec tunnel. But I don't know, for some reason I just can't get it to be solid. And even Mikrotik to Mikrotik, especially when you start getting more IPsec endpoints on there, I've seen it get a little squirrely. But lately, I've been having really good success doing GRE tunnels and doing IPsec over the top of that.
Yeah,
really?
I'm using GRE tunnels to help people get around some problems with arbitrary censorship for VoIP, believe it or not. So you can't make a VoIP call because you'll get black holes. And the GRE tunnels are pretty. It's in a country that's not exactly the most
Friendly.
It's going through a country that's not. Basically, it's a country that's friendly, going through a country that doesn't quite value free speech and friendliness and all that. Anyway, so basically, yeah, the GRE tunnels are pretty awesome, pretty reliable. They work well in 6.15. There was a bug on 6.7. I had kernel panics, which was kind of a bit annoying. But like basically, in fairness, now we were pushing 700 megs through the tunnel, so it was kind of. It was a bit bigger than your standard GRE tunnel, so to give it its due. But no, in 6.15, rock solid, I have to say. IPsec, we're doing it between 1100 and a Fortinet appliance. So what we normally try to do is use Mikrotik, but we kind of got a managed contract, and they said you have to do it into our Fortinet appliance, and I said, for that amount of money a month, I'll do it to anything. So like, but we matched up all the settings perfectly, like all the key life stuff. Now I'm sure you did that too.
Yeah.
Nonsense.
No, for me, I'll have it solid for a week, 2 weeks, and then it'll just decide to dump. Arbitrarily, it'll just dump, and you can clear out the SAs, and immediately it comes right back up.
What'd you call me?
SA. Yeah, so it's it's weird, and I there's no explaining it. But so I started, because we used to do a lot of our management interfaces would just IPsec back to our ASA, and that's how we get to everything. But I've since started doing, because ASAs won't do a GRE tunnel because they're not routers. Anytime you hit a limitation on an ASA, it's not a limitation; it's that it's a firewall. It's not a router. So we do GRE over to a Mikrotik and just IPsec, and works great. Been's really solid for us.
What I find is if there's interruptions to, let's say, the link between the two routers, the IPsec can be pretty unforgiving. Even with a Cisco client, we've found that. But then if you actually do it inside some sort of tunnel like IP or I prefer GRE because of the keep alives. Mm-hmm. You know that the interface is up or down. But no, but I haven't been honest. I kind of do more and more of IPsec now with Mikrotik, so I'm kind of probably going to run into your pain. But being honest, I've had issues like Cisco a few years ago had a lot of trouble with IPsec. Tunnels holding up. Like on long range links and stuff like that, where you might have 500 or 600 milliseconds latency. Possibly not the best copper in the world between the 2 points. Right. But I haven't. But I will probably run into that.
I found that I like GRE so much better because I like actually routing across those links. So it's an encrypted link, but you can still route across them. And so instead of IPsec, where you just put in some policy and say this traffic and go into that traffic, and it'll just kind of all of a sudden disappear off your router and encrypt and do all this stuff. I don't know. It's just a little bit more logical flow. When you're doing like a trace route, you'll see it actually hit the tunnel interfaces, and I think not just for me. So like when I put it in place, whenever my techs are troubleshooting and stuff, it's a lot easier for them to kind of grab a hold of and wrap their mind around.
So, speaking about routing and trace routes and stuff, do you guys know of a product that will scrape your router's interfaces and match up the IPs and create PTR records for those IPs based on the interface names? So you trace routes, you can host your own DNS and trace route and get the PTRs for the IPs based off the interface names. Am I making any sense?
Yeah, I know what you're trying to say. So you're wanting to automate the creation of those PTRs without looking up each router and figuring out what each one is.
Right.
Yeah, I keep two answers. That is a stupid idea, Justin. It's not possible. And then, that's a great idea. I think it's a good product to make.
So
I know of one program that will do it. It's open source. It's called NetDot.
Uh-huh.
The problem is it doesn't work well with Mikrotik. I mean, it works, but So you add the router, the first router, it gets the hardware type and everything correct for asset tracking, and then you add the next one. So the first one's 1100, you add a 750. It changes the previous one to a 750. The next one you add, it might be a 450. It'll change the previous two to 450s.
Gotcha.
You add the next one, it changes all of them back to whatever the next one is. It just...
The architecture is, yeah.
You know what I see, like in my head, the way I you know, because I like try and figure out how I would do it. I would do, because SNMP, you can pull the interface IPs, right?
You can.
So couldn't you just
the only
IP address and then SNMP string, and then it would just crawl through and then create all the pointer records for you?
The only tricky thing about Mikrotik with the SNMP is it seems to, for different interface types, have, like, not even interface types, but if you have different chipsets.
So you're saying just walk all those OIDs and then parse that data and then have another script that creates the PTRs.
Yeah, why not?
But yeah, no. The only problem, have you noticed that when you have different wireless interfaces, like as in a 711 versus a 411 with the wireless card, that they have actually different OIDs for their properties, even though, like, your WLAN1. So your WLAN1 on one router will have this OID, but, you know, it's...
You're missing the point. I don't think you actually need to walk those. You just need to walk the IP address table, because it's Ethernet and IP address right there.
So, as far as the PTR name goes, what would you want that to be? Would you want it to be? Would you want to pull the name of the interface and have that?
You probably want like router host name dash.
You would just
like
it would either be the
name,
comment. It would either be the comment that you put it there, or the actual
comment
interface name, because you can name the interfaces exactly what you want that PDR to be.
Well, I mean, because I know it like SNMP will match up. I think somewhere in the OID string it matches up interface name with IP address. Because I know, like in my Cacti, when I pull them, it pulls, you know, so it shows all the interfaces and the IPs associated with them. So there is a matchup somewhere in there. So it would just
I love doing the walk with the dude because it's so clean.
Yeah, so like, you could just SNMP, what's the host name, SNMP, what's the interface name, and then you would have an IP associated with that, and then you would just generate all the pointer records.
You could also use the Mikrotik API to do it.
Yeah.
Never played with that.
I was going to say the SNMP would probably be more solid in the long term, though. Because the API, I think, occasionally changes, doesn't it?
Hmm.
But that is a good idea, because that's something recently, you know, when I got on my net blocks from Aaron, you know, I was creating PTRs for those. And you know, I got through like the first 50, and I was like, "This is a bunch of bull crap. I'm not doing all these manually." And then I found out that you can just, you know, put that, you know, do those strings and bind where you do like $, whatever.
You know what I was looking up the other day is the Mikrotik dynamic IP thing. They've actually got it in there so that you specify like. The DNS server, right? And it's something like that.
Oh, yeah, DNS, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe that almost sounds like enough. If you could just, if it would just automatically, you could point it towards your DNS servers and have it update the pointer records instead of the forward records. I guess that would never mind, because it's doing.
Oh, and you'd also have to, and you could adjust the source address so that, you know, you'd kind of, you know, the way your router.
That's only going to handle one interface or one IP, though.
Yeah, I was going to say, you can't really rig it to do everything you want, I guess.
You have to scrape it and grab that information and create those records.
Sorry, Justin, you were saying about Observium, which I'm actually a fan of, because it's the first graphing product based on PHP that I could set up in under 4 hours and have it working. And the board SNMP version 3, which I thought was actually pretty impressive. When I say 4 hours, I mean metal, tin, Linux, following the guide, and actually use and doing SNMP version 3, which I think Cacti does an okay job, but I still couldn't get it working. Sorry. I was using Greg's blog, which was very helpful on Cacti, but I still obviously was missing the je ne sais quoi.
Yeah, it's kind of hairy at first. There's a learning curve.
Cacti kicked my ass for like 2 years, and then I said, "Well, if Greg can do it, JJ can do it."
That's it. My sister's retarded. She's a pilot.
Well, Justin,
So-
what were the issues you were seeing, or?
So the graphs have very odd spikes. It's, first of all, the bandwidth should have been in 250 meg range, and it was only about 100. And then
That sounds like
Sounds like no audio.
yeah, the audio.
No audio.
Lost your audio. But that almost sounds like a...
Justin, we've lost your audio.
What?
We've lost your audio, Justin.
There you go, see, it just popped off. So that almost sounded like a 64-bit counter problem, which I've run into before as well.
Yeah, I've seen that too, where he probably selected 64-bit counter where he probably didn't need to.
my back.
Hello? Yeah,
You're
you're
back.
back. Hello?
I hear you, Tom.
We'll blame the host. So, what did you not hear?
Pretty much everything.
Okay, so
Whatever you were
graph-
saying when you were doing this.
Yeah, the
Spikes.
graph has big holes missing in it, so it'll have like one bar, and then it'll skip, and then have another bar, and then it'll have a hill here, and then it'll just die, and then it'll have another graph that goes up. And one of the guys on one of the lists said that was a disk I/O problem. So I'm running it in ESXi on a shared host with a bunch of other stuff, and I'm having a problem. So it's 15K SAS drives and quad core with RAM and whatever. It's
15K fast drives. Yeah, no, you're doing a good bit better than me. I cheaped out and got the 10K, SATA drives from Velociraptor or Western Digital. But yeah, no, we have a certain amount of those troughs, and I actually put it down to maybe network issues, so I just kind of ignored it.
just monitoring like the next hop. Actually, I have Mikrotik or Router OS running in a ESXi host on the same box, and I was monitoring that, and that was having problems.
Oh,
So I
really?
know there's no
Yeah,
Packet
network. So it's a
My cacti works awesome.
Yeah, so does mine.
yeah, but does it look as nice as Observium? Do you see
It's,
the
it's
graph
all a tool. So yeah, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
with the mouse over? Nice mouse over.
Does Observium do real time?
yeah.
Yes,
That's cool.
That works fine. It's just the
actually
graphs that are
works good.
stored. Just
Yeah. No,
So-
and it actually supports SMP version 3 really well. Sorry for cutting across.
Yeah,
I thought it might have been 64-bit counters for the SMP strings not getting set, but it's all set automatically, so it's there. That would cause wrapping and whatever, but
Yeah, I was going to say on some of my stuff, on my gig links, I wasn't using 64-bit counters initially. And so when I fixed that, like all of my bandwidth profiles like whoop, came in and fixed that they're supposed to.
Our bandwidth provider uses a custom solution called EM7. I don't know if any of you guys have ever heard of it, but they use funny math, and so I busted them on it because I'm graphing all my interfaces from several different applications, and their graphs were about 30 to 40% higher than mine on 95th percentile consumption, and so we had to get in there and argue who was wrong. So,
Who won?
I did.
Goodbye.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I mean, it was definitely a win because they adjusted their math. It was way in their favor. So ever since this company acquired the new company, they used to be on Smyth, which I don't know if you guys have ever seen or used that, but Smyth is like a data center management kind of thing. You can manage racks, co-location space. It's basically full CRM and ticketing for data centers. And the old guys use that, and then these new guys use this custom EM7, and their math was way off. So I didn't get a credit for all the overcharges, but I guess that's okay.
Have you ever noticed a difference between Dude monitoring a link, in the weather map, between SNMP monitoring and root OS monitoring? Because I've noticed that often the SNMP monitoring looks like 20 to 30%. Now I'm using SNMP version 3. It looks 20 to 30, maybe 50% higher with SNMP. then and my theory is maybe that router OS samples the instantaneous, throughput at the time as opposed to
instead of the average.
checking the counters.
Oh yeah, I've seen that, and but I've not seen anything that would be outside of just statistical sampling noise. Just.
My dude instance, all the labels go dead all the time now.
Is it version 4?
3.6.
Okay, I had that happen on version 4, and I went back to 3.6 because it was just almost useless.
Are you using Dude on a router, or actually putting it on a Windows server like a VM or something?
It's on a Windows 2008 machine that's. And there's no VM virtualization or anything. A lot of the devices, so if you go to click on devices and you click on Router OS tab, it has a list of all the devices. All the Router OS ones, they fail. All of them are just failing. All the passwords are correct and everything. It just doesn't work anymore.
Oh.
I think it's reached critical mass, and it's just.
I think there is a limit in the amount of data. There was someone was saying they're using SQLite or something like that, so there was some sort of 2 gig.
That's in 4. I think the SQLite database is in 4,
and I think there's a 2 gig limit on that, so maybe that might be. But I haven't run into that issue. In fairness, Dude has been relatively reliable. The only bitching thing I can say about it is the fact that you have to do about 5 clicks to open up Winbox, which should be default actually.
Really? To me, the one failing thing about Dude is that it doesn't do automated backups for you.
Yeah.
I think if you add a Mikrotik device, it should start backing that full up.
I would have to agree with that. But since they don't, I know somebody that made a pretty clever program that keeps it on their blog that does that for you.
Rancid?
Huh?
Rancid?
No, Greg's little...
oh, my ghetto one?
Yeah, your ghetto.
Yeah. That was in a pinch.
Didn't you, Justin, didn't you make a script that would comb through Dude and put it into Rancid and a few other systems?
Yeah.
And we can just go to your blog and download that script, right?
I might throw something together, because what you need to do is shut down the Dude service for a moment, and then
restart it often. But I do have a script that
do a file backup.
I have a script that logs into the web interface of the Dude and backs up the file, the backup automatically. It does it nightly. It just stored in Subversion every night.
Nice.
That's cool.
It's over SSL too.
Yeah, I did Rancid for the first time about a year ago, I think. And stuck it on my Cacti server just to back up a bunch of Cisco devices. It worked pretty well.
It works on Mikrotik, and I also have a custom script that I wrote to back up AirFiber and Ubiquiti devices.
Very cool.
Well,
I think that's about it. I gotta be at work in the morning.
I do too. I need to go to sleep.
This has only been 3.5 hours.
Let's see. We started at a little bit before 9, 10, 11. Yeah, it's been like close to 3 hours. Yeah, well, it was like 8:40, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, so we'll go right to left since Tom's on the phone over there. So JJ, you got anything interesting coming up?
Just working on that fiber project and the mum, and I'll just be happy to see all you guys since I missed it last year. It'll definitely be nice to get up there and get to see you guys face to face again. And that's about all I got going on.
All right, Miller, what you got?
I'm going on vacation in August.
Oh yeah, where to?
Seattle.
Hey, I got to go there.
So, looking forward to that, and Mom and Wade just hired a new guy. He's doing pretty good. He took home a 951 and told me it was complete garbage because he couldn't get it to work. I'm like, you're using QuickSet and you have no guidance at all. So
yeah, Yeah.
training for you call it complete garbage, but
Yeah, I've actually started training a new guy. I'm going to get my own guy now, finally. I started training him, and he's been taking a Mikrotik home, and bless him, he's trying so hard. And then works at it for 3 days, and then say, hey, take a look at this. Click, 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 click. Okay, now it's done. Here you go. Poor guy. All right, Mike. What do you got going, brother?
Well, should be taking delivery, hopefully less than a month, of an SIAE license link for a customer of mine.
Awesome.
It's not even here yet, and they want 3 more. So then they'll give me money to go do all the stuff that I want to do on my own network.
Very nice.
Very nice.
Congratulations.
All right, Tom, what do you got going?
Well, I got some guys on site doing 3 sector upgrades there at the moment, and they're putting in 3 Mimosa sectors. But no, other than that, no, pretty busy, but doing a lot of research, doing a lot more with BGP lately, and
I just turned up BGP on our last link, so that was it.
I joined the BGP club since the last cast as well, so got my own ASN and feeling all fancy the pants now.
I had one of those x86 routers, and I'm going there to upgrade it. I reboot it before doing the upgrade. Dead.
oh no,
Poor router just dead. So
flashes are
the phone with Windstream at the time, and said, "Hey, my router just died. I'm gonna go over to the office and pick up a different router." I went to the office, picked up a router, came back, had it configured and operational before they were ready with their BGP config.
oh cool.
So it was pretty eventful.
Nice.
No, I like it. Being honest, and I love the X86 when it's running on the BGP, and I'm kind of still envious of Greg's dual 100 gig feeds. You know that you have in the.
Oh yeah, 100 gig feeds. Yeah, no, we're not nearly so bad.
Look, Greg, Tom.
Well, it still gets it done. You just had a kid, Tom, so I know it's working.
No, it's really cold. No, it's pretty cool. No, I'm learning a lot, but I'm quite busy. Economy's improving. Obama's doing good work over there, I believe.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I know over here we've got. What am I doing? We've taken over management of an airport, so I've been doing a lot of crazy stuff with Mikrotiks to make it work, because it's an old university network, and so we can only do certain things. We're allowed to do this and that, but they haven't let us put our own gear on the network yet, so we have to ride some of their infrastructure. So I have a ton of tunnels, a ton of encrypting, all this weird stuff. It's all cobbled together, but it's running 100% rock solid, and it met the deadline and it's going. And it's all on old PCs and 750s, and I think we spent about $150 total.
Wow.
And it's got it working. So it's brilliant. It's brilliant stuff. And then what else do we have going? I'm looking forward to a vacation of some sort in the near future. I am like so burned out. I need to go away and turn off my phone. Hopefully, Pittsburgh is too far away for me to even look at that as like something upcoming. It's like still 2 months out.
What about Pittsburgh and then go shooting for a day or two afterwards?
Sorry. Well, how long are you going to be in town?
I don't know yet. Like, I haven't booked the tickets yet. I'm kind of trying to shoehorn in some clients over there, and we'll see how that goes. I suppose I haven't really decided. Would you stay on for a bit longer? If
I would stay. I would definitely stay longer if you're going to stay longer.
Cool. Mike's kind of going, no, not staying longer with that. JJ Boyd is kind of going, I don't know, could I last longer than 2 days with Tom? Justin,
I'm there.
I'm really looking forward to seeing you. 2 years is just too long, you know.
For sure. You can't quit me. That's all I know.
No.
I'm like herpes. Just when you think I'm gone, bam, right back in there. Just show up unexpected.
Guys, it is 10 to 6 in the morning and I haven't had much sleep.
Okay.
Oh God.
That's
It's
commitment. That's how much I love you guys.
yeah, it's almost midnight for me, so I'm getting a little sleepy, Tom. I'm gonna go to
1
bed
a.m.
myself.
here for JJ and I.
Yeah. Or EST.
All right, so I'm gonna kill the recording. Thanks everybody for watching and listening to us rant, and hopefully we'll do some more of these before. Maybe we'll do another one before the thing with the stuff the mum.
Just cut this one in half and, you know,
Just
Release it twice.
piecemeal it. There you go.
part 1, part 2.
Well, all right. Bye everybody.